Waiting. No one ever wants to do it, and you certainly don't enjoy it, but sometimes it's out of our control. For the riders that spend every day training for that one day in April, they've had to wait a long time. Every day of April went by in 2020 without a race. Every day in April has gone by in 2021. Still no race. Nothing has been normal over the past year. Sporting events with empty stands, players and coaches masked up on the sidelines, and COVID testing before every practice and game. But sports have safely returned. And after having no race in 2020, the Little 500 is back. There will be no fans. The students have returned home for the summer. It will be a little hotter, a little later, and a little quieter, but there will be a race. It's no longer one day in April, it's one day in May.
Here comes Phi Delta Theta, side by side. What an incredible finish! Phi Delta Theta, young into the final turn, and history. And the 60th edition of the Little 500 goes to the Cutters.
Here comes Black Bee Bulls and Kevin Mangle. They are your 2017 Little 500 champions.
It's a sprint to the finish for the 68th Little 500, and it's going to be Cutters. Cutters are back on top.
This year's riders have had to wait longer than anyone has ever had to wait before a Little 500 race. It's been 2 years since Cutters took home their second straight trophy. Now it's time to find out whose wait was worth it. It's time for the 70th running of the men's Little 500.
The wait is just about over for the 70th men's Little 500. Austin Render joined by Charlie Hammon and Griffin Gonzalez here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. This is an exciting day because the Little 500 has returned, Charlie. It's returned at a different day, which could mean a much different race today.
Yeah, absolutely. The weather in Indiana in April versus May can be very different. A lot of times in April it's colder, but in May it's a hot, humid day today, so it's going to be really important for riders to stay on top of their nutrition, stay hydrated. And you mentioned track conditions. The track can be so different every day. It's a very unique part of Little 5 being on cinders. So I'm curious to see if the dry track today is a common storyline throughout. Turn 1 is already looking pretty bad even pre-race, so we'll see if that's an issue today.
One of the big storylines today is Jet Black. They're on the pole position, and their coach Courtney Bishop is in his final season, and our pit reporter Griffin Gonzalez had a chance to catch up with him ahead of his final Little 500 race.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Here with the legend Courtney Bishop himself, 25 years, and the shirt says it best on the back. It is your last dance.
The last dance, yeah.
What are the emotions kind of going through your mind here as you're getting ready for your final race?
To be honest with you, it's just another day. We're just trying to get focused and just execute what we do. Just kind of going through our scenarios. So just trying to keep the boys focused and see what we can do.
And you talk about that coach's mindset, and you're going to need it today with that pole position already, getting ready for your guys to go. How do you go about holding on to that and keeping that lead throughout 200 laps?
Well, we don't. Last time I checked, winning a race is really only about the last pedal stroke. So we're just trying to kind of run our race and try and be there at the end and see if we can't make something special happen today.
25 years, lots of memories, lots of wins, lots of losses. But
yeah.
If you can, just really quick, how would you sum up your time here on this track at Bill Armstrong Stadium participating in the Little 500?
It's been a fun roller coaster filled with some really great memories, some really great people, some tough situations and some good trouble, but it's been a lot of fun for sure.
Courtney Bishop, the living legend here participating in this final 500. Should be a good one. Good luck, Coach.
Should be fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Griffin. It is really good to be back here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. It's great to have this race back, Charlie, and there's so many things to talk about as we lead into it. there's just a general lack of racing experience from these guys because nobody raced last year. People lost a year, and I think that's going to be a big storyline coming into this race.
Yeah, absolutely. There's only a handful of riders in the field that have ever raced Little 500 before, and it's by no means necessary to have raced Little 5 to win, but it really helps a lot. That's a big variable in the equation of winning Little 5 is that race experience. So I'm curious to see what it looks like today, if there's going to be more crashes, if there's going to be some interesting tactics out there.
Yeah, that's one of the many storylines. Obviously, you can't avoid the two-time defending champion Cutters, but they're one of those teams that has no experience in their starting four today. So that's something that, yeah, they have the last two championships, but how will that affect them today, having no returning riders?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do have the second-place ITTer in Torrin, but overall, it's tough to come to the track with no experience. I think that Cutters has a fantastic program, and they're always going to get their riders as ready as possible for race day, but not having experience is tough. So I'm curious to see what type of race they run today.
You can see their roster right there. All those guys with zero experience, but you mentioned Torrin Cray Maher was second in ITTs. He's a sophomore, and he will lead this Cutters team, no doubt about it, as they try and get through this. So as we get ready here, Charlie, and talk about some of these teams, who are you watching for outside of the Cutters to make a run at this year's title?
Yeah, absolutely. I think objectively the two favorites are Jet Black and Black Key Bulls. So Jet Black was the Spring Series winner. They won Team Pursuit. They're sitting on our pole position today. And so them and Black Key Bulls, who's starting in the last position because they actually could not race qualifications. So those are the two favorites. I think that they're going to be a big storyline today.
Yeah, obviously with Jet Black starting on the pole position, they are the team to watch. We saw Griffin talk to their coach, Courtney Bishop, who is in his final season. He will be moving on from the Little 5. He first attended the race in 1986, and here he is in 2021. He's made such an impact on this race, Charlie. What will he leave on the Little 5 as he heads away?
Absolutely. I mean, Courtney's been part of the community for 25 years. He was a rider for Acacia. He's coached both men's and women's teams. He's won. He's truly been a fantastic cornerstone for this community, and people like him are what makes Little 500 so special and such a great tradition when you're so involved in this race.
Well, so many stories to talk about. Let's go ahead and take a pause for our national anthem with the PA announcer, Chuck Crabb.
Who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Our national anthem is presented today by Resting Pitch Face.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done on the national anthem.
As the starting riders come to the start-finish line and we get ready for racing, we present Indiana University Men's Acapella Group another round with Back Home Again in Indiana.
Do do do
here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. A beautiful day here in Bloomington. Charlie, it has worked out well that the weather has cooperated with us today. And it should be a great race, but you mentioned before in the Open about how this weather will impact this race compared to a normal April day.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just tough for riders to keep hydrating, keep nutrition in them when it's so hot like this. When you get off the bike after doing a hard set, the first thing that you want to do is not, stuff food or water. So it's going to be really important for riders to stay on top of that, and that's where really the student coaches and their pit coaches need to be on top of them to make sure that they are hydrating. But also, like we said earlier, the drier track, since it did turn out to be a great day instead of storming, but that means that the track's going to be drier, especially since the women's race was earlier today. So we'll see if that's a common storyline throughout the race.
Well, in the first row here today will be a couple of teams that we do expect to contend for this title. Obviously, Jet Black, Cutters, and a surprising run by Chi Alpha, who will be racing in the third spot. But it was a really unfortunate situation in a practice race earlier this year. Their top rider, Jazz Briggs, broke his collarbone. He will not race. Therefore, Chi Alpha will be down to 3 riders today. And you look into row 2, Grey Goat, Phi Psi, some really good teams there. As you look past the first row, who do you look at to make a surprise run here? Keeping out of the question BKB in the final row because we know they're capable of it. But who's a sleeper there in some of these middle rows that we're showing right now?
Yeah, I think Bears on the inside of row 3 has a great program. They've been very good the last few years. They had a second-place finish in 2019. They're going to be a really solid team. I'm also looking at Fidel in the middle of row 4. They have had a very good program for 10-plus years now. They have some of their alumni support like Rob Lee and Joe Hanauer in their pit today, helping them out, making sure that their race strategy is up to par. So I think that they could be, maybe a little bit of a sleeper in today's race.
When you listen or you watch the Little 500, you expect to hear some continuity of names coming from previous years. You won't hear a ton of that this year because there is a lot of new racers, but the names that people may know, Robert Krahulick is at the top of that list for Jet Black.
Absolutely. So Robert Krahulick is the third Krahulick to race Little 500. Both his brothers, Andrew and Joe, raced before him. Both very good riders. So I think Robert Krahulick is one of the best riders in the race. He got third place at ITTs, and it's just an all-around workhorse for that team. So I'm excited to see what he does today.
Are you at all surprised that he is not starting on the bike for Jet Black?
I'm not at all, to be honest. They have 4 guys in the top 12 to 15 of ITTs. Any one of those guys is capable of starting the race for them. I would, if I was their coach, I probably wouldn't start Rob, so somebody else could kind of burn those matches, and Rob can save his legs for later.
It looks like Trent Hohenstreiter will be the starting rider for Jet Black. And then it's Cutters, Chi Alpha in that second row. You got some really interesting fraternity teams, Sigma Phi Epsilon and Phi Kappa Psi, as well as Grey Goat on the outside. If there's a team that's going to break the drought since 2016 for a Greek house to get on the podium, who are you looking at here today?
Well, that's a great question. I'm looking at Sig Up or Phi Psi, I think. Both those teams have really solid 4 riders. They have a couple, hitters in their team, but all around they have a solid 1 through 4 team. So I'm excited to see if they make any early moves similar to how the women's race played out earlier, if they try to make a breakaway attempt around 100 to 150 time frame.
And in the final row, your former team, one of the top teams in this race that unfortunately missed team pursuit because of being quarantined from COVID-19, Black Key Bulls, how do they make up that ground quickly?
It's a really tough position to be in. A lot of, just looking at races in the past, there's always a wreck in the first 5 laps, and they're going to be in that danger zone. So they put their star rider, ITT winner, Robert Strobel. He's raced the 2019 race. He's arguably the best rider in the field. So they put him on the bike to kind of figure out how to get to the front, whether it's to leapfrog his way up there or just burn some matches and get there immediately. But it's going to be really interesting to see if they get caught up in any sort of riffraff in the back.
It's our final pace lap here before we get started. So much excitement. It's been 2 years since we have had a men's little 500. The women's went earlier today to Delta Gamma in a runaway fashion. Can't wait to see what we get here today for the men's little 500. That row one, as we started off, it is Jet Black, Cutters, Chi Alpha, followed by Sigma Phi Epsilon, Phi Kappa Psi, Grey Goat, Bears, Acacia, and CSF Cycling in the third row. And as Chappie Blackwell gives us the green flag, we are underway at the 70th running of the men's little 500 with Jet Black in the opening position. Something to watch for, though, Charlie. Courtney Bishop does not like to run out in front. Starting in the pole position, that's obviously where you are. How quickly, and as I say this, they're letting them go by them. Is that something we expected to see today?
I absolutely thought that was going to happen. I'm honestly surprised he pulled as long as he did. It's Courtney's MO to really never touch the front of the race.
Huge moves right now coming from the back of the pack. Beta Sigma Psi as well as Pi Lambda Phi have jumped out in front early.
Yeah, it's good to see some of those teams come to the front and keep the pace hot, especially, for BKB. They want the pace to be a little bit hotter because generally there's not as many crashes when things don't bunch up and it's, strung out like it is right now. So you see BKB still kind of in the back, kind of getting the vibe of the pack and starting to make his way up now.
It is BKB finally passing and getting out of last place, and now you see Robert Strobel starting to make a move out there on the outside. He's passing multiple teams now. We saw this from Theta in the women's race. They had to do the same thing, and they were quickly in the front of the pack. Beta Sigma Psi has taken the opening lead here. It is Anoop Chinthala on the mount, or on the bike for the Beta Sigma Psi, and now they're being passed immediately. Here comes Cutters on the inside. Obviously, that's not a team that you can sleep on even without any returning riders.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that right now all of these riders are coasting through the turns, especially turn one. This track is really loose. You can see when they come through turn 4, just all sorts of dust being kicked up. Turn 1 is especially bad. So I haven't seen a crash yet, but I am starting to get a little bit nervous that one's going to happen soon.
It was a clean race in the women's race earlier. Sigma Phi Epsilon is in the lead right now, but they're going to give way here around turn 1. You can see that turn 1. People are very cautious going around there. Bears is making a move out the outside now. Obviously, early in the race, when you were racing with Black Key Bulls, what's your thought early in the race as we see Bears here kind of burn out early?
Yeah, so I always like doing kind of longer sets on the first set, starting 20, somewhere in the 15 to 25 range. It's nice to be able to wait out some of the big exchanges at first and kind of wait out some of your competition just to kind of get a vibe for when people are going to be exchanging and making sure that your exchange is not the one that people follow.
Bears just had to serve a penalty there in the box for 2 seconds, and now they're going to hop on a new rider. That is Connor Frankie getting on the bike for Bears.
So they must have missed they got a pre-race 2-second penalty. They must have missed one of the meetings prior to leading up to Little 5. Penalties are a really interesting part of the race. You can get pre-raced and during race penalties, and there's a penalty box right at the start-finish line that you have to dismount, sit in the penalty box for however long your penalty is for, and then get back up to speed. It can really, really hurt your race. So I'm glad to see that Bears was able to serve it and get back on the pack pretty quickly.
They are back in the pack. There was somebody there that lost their wheel for a second around turn 4, but like you said, no crashes so far, but you could see, some wheels really getting loose around turn 1. That is going to be something to watch through the entirety of this race, I think. At 200 laps, it's only going to get more and more wear and tear on it.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if teams adapt to that, because if it's going to be a sprint race, or people don't want it to be a sprint, because that's when crashes are going to happen. Crashes, happen in sprints regardless, but especially if the track is this bad, there's just a higher chance of something happening. So some of these teams, these stronger teams that have 3-4 deep riders, they might try to maybe change their tactics up a little bit and break away so they don't have to worry about some of these track conditions.
Brett Knorr of Theta Chi has broken away for the time being. They're planning on an exchange on the far side. Theta Chi has 2 riders today. Brett Knorr, who's on the bike, and Matthew Wordle, who will be getting on the bike here as they exchange on the far side. And that's a good transition into some pit spots today. On that far side, there's some contenders. Jet Black is in the turn 2 corner, Phi Si's in the turn 3 corner, and Blackie Bulls is right down the middle of the far straightaway. Is there any sort of advantage to those teams pitting away from some of the other contenders here on the near side?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's normally really in relation to where you are to the other top teams, because sometimes if you're pitted on the front stretch and some of your competitors are on the back stretch, you can kind of cue off of each other's exchanges, and that's when some big moves might happen. But having Jet Black and BKB, Phi Side, those are 3 of our favorites today, all back there. It should be interesting, especially with Jet Black being right at the start, right coming out of turn 2. It's a really interesting pit selection for them.
BKB has made its way into the middle of the pack. They're still toward the back, but still making up a little bit of ground. Are you surprised at all of how bunched this has been early? There's not a lot of stretch at all to this pack.
Yeah,
they're going 4 wide right now.
Yeah, the race is slow right now. That's a really easy indication if you're not taking lap times to see, is the race fast? If it is, it's going to be strung out where all the riders are following each other. When it goes 4 wide like this, so BKB just got to the front, which is great. They didn't get in a crash. They're at the front. That was a really, really great set by Robert Strobel to get his team out of the danger zone, as we say.
What an excellent run by Strobel. He does lose the lead. Here's a couple of teams taking on the inside, but Blackie Bulls has gotten out of the back without getting in a crash, which I know was their big thing as they head into the middle of this race. And we've talked about turn 1 a lot. For more on that, our pit reporter, Griffin Gonzalez, is down there with a report on what turn 1 looks like from his eyes.
Guys, I just had to come down here because I heard you talking about turn 1. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and here's what there is. You might be hard to see at home, but there's actually a drain where water can come out when it rains. And keep in mind, we did have some rain this morning. And because of that, this area of the track is where it gets really water heavy. So they actually have to sand in between the men's and women's race earlier today. They place a little bucket of sand trying to reload there. So the difference between riding down the main stretch compared to this bend, it's like riding on regular dirt compared to riding a bike on a beach. It's a totally different feel, and riders are trying to contain themselves, and it's definitely an added challenge here in turn 1. So should be fun to see how they play this out for the rest of the way.
Griffin, have you ever ridden a bike on a beach?
Render, I have not. I have seen those really big-wheeled bikes. Those look really fun to ride on the beach, but I've actually never gone ahead and taken my mountain bike, especially these small-wheeled bikes, and hit it out there.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Griffin. That's an interesting comparison. Like you're riding on the road, and then all of a sudden you're on the beach. But as we get looking back at the race, Cutters again in the front. Your normal teams, but like we've been talking about, there's no space between these teams right now. Everybody is in this race, which favors who right now?
Yeah, I think it favors the sprinters at this point. If it's going to continue being slow like this, which hopefully it won't be, but it's going to favor those sprinters, the BKBs, the Gray Goats, they won missing out. Those are the teams that are going to probably win the sprint. So if it stays slow, look for those sprinter teams to be licking their chops.
Matt Cooper is in the front for Fiji. He is one of the 3 third-timers in this field. He raced in 2018 and 2019. He's out in front right now for Phi Gamma Delta, and he's immediately passed as I talk about that by Sigap. And they have taken the early lead again. It's been kind of back and forth. It feels like just about every team has had a piece of that lead here early. 12 laps in. No crashes so far, uneventful, which is probably a good thing for most of the riders in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, safety is number 1. I am, mildly surprised that there hasn't been a crash yet with like we said, the experience and the track conditions, but it's great to see that there hasn't been one. It looks like these guys are as prepared as they possibly could have to race this race, and it's exciting to see that the experience is at this point not a problem for safety.
It's important to continue to note that there are a lot of first-time riders in this field. But there is a difference sometimes, Charlie. I've talked to a lot of the teams leading up to this race. A lot of them are first-time Little 5 riders, but they ride in other bike races. How does that translate to Little 5, and how is it different?
Yeah, that's a really great point, because Little 5, it's just this one race every year. It's for most Little 5 riders, the one they care about the most, but they also do, road races criteriums, cyclocross races, mountain bike races. There's all sorts of different cycling disciplines that a lot of these riders like to do because they just love bike racing. And you'll see some of these, a lot of the top riders, just by nature of training for those other races and just really being into the sport, are the ones that are gonna have that racing experience outside of Little 500 that translates very well to this race. It's definitely different, and that's mainly because of kind of the exchanges part of Little 5. But it's a very important piece.
Novus Cycling is coming in for I believe, serving a penalty, and they actually went through the penalty area and now have to reset, and he's having a tough time getting back on his bike, so that's a big setback for Novus Cycling. Or Delta Upsilon, excuse me, getting a penalty served there, and now they're a bit behind. But again, the pack is so close, he might be able to catch up pretty quickly. The wind has not picked up like we thought it would today. It's not an incredibly windy day. It's hot and humid. And like you said, it's important to stay hydrated throughout this race and stay at eating, because that's what you told me is one of the hardest things to do when you're out there giving it your all. You're sweating, you're hot, and you come to the sideline and you have to then refuel.
Yeah, it's really tough. Nobody wants to do it. But it really is so important. I know it sounds small, but that can really enhance or hurt your performance if you're not staying on top of your nutrition and your hydration. So hopefully these pits know that, and their coaches are pushing them to do so.
Cutters just made it the first big exchange. Torrin Cray-Maher is off the bike and Peyton Gaskill is on, and they're catching up to the back of the pack. We're going to see some of these exchanges coming here as we go. Acacia is getting ready to go here the near side. They're going to switch riders, and Acacia will be putting on the bike Josh Church. And we're going to see that as we get further and further into this race, more and more changes. Looks like Fiji is also going to exchange. So that's a part of the race that we're getting into now, where teams are going to have to exchange. Jet Black is exchanging on the far side and immediately back into the pack. Exchanges can determine a race, right, Charlie? I mean, you have to be solid on your exchanges.
Yeah, there's kind of two elements to exchanges that are really important. One, they can help you make the race if you're in a breakaway and you have fast exchanges, but they can really, really hurt your race if you don't have good ones and you constantly crash during them because you just keep falling back. The second thing is exchanges are really where teams will try to break away, queuing off other people's exchanges. Say they ride somebody else's exchanges, follow their wheel out, and then keep going. That's where a lot of strategy comes into this race, is basically attacking exchanges.
Sigep is getting ready to make an exchange. Pablo Fierce Garcia is getting ready to get on the bike. Grego right here at the start-finish line is also getting ready. And meanwhile, it is Fiji out in front as we start to spread out here a little bit, Charlie. Teams getting a little bit ahead of each other now.
Yeah, as soon as the exchanges start to happen like they just did around this 15 to 20 range, this is where some of the, not really fireworks, but things get a little more exciting as people are following each other out. So this is when, when it starts to bunch up and get slow. As soon as the exchanges start happening again, things get exciting. So it's fun to see kind of riders just spread out around.
Well, part of not having the race in April into May is the no fans in attendance today. And for more on that, we're going to go down to our pit reporter, Griffin Gonzalez.
Yeah, Austin, the biggest storyline coming into this race, other than the race itself, might be the fact that there are no fans here. And I'm not going to lie to you, being here for the women's race and now this race, it's a little quiet up here compared to what we're used to. But if you move over here, it's louder than it's ever been. You're hearing teams and coaches constantly cheer each other on. That noise used to be drowned out by the fanfare, but this year you can hear it constantly. You're actually learning more and more about the race and the strategies if you just listen to these teams. And as far as intensity goes, I assure you, fans not being here has not changed the need for these riders to do one thing and one thing only: win.
Thanks, Griffin. Yeah, this is a different atmosphere, and as Fiji makes a change here, they're going to turn to John Gudeman on the bike. They are out in front with Phi Kappa Sigma actually in front right now, and they are also going in for an exchange. Those two teams have taken it a step ahead of everybody else so far, Charlie.
Yeah, Fiji is definitely off the front right now, and I'm looking down at their pit. This is a move. Like, they are actively trying to push this move forward, so I think this is an early breakaway attempt. Maybe they saw the women's race earlier where DG lapped the field pretty early on, and this might be a similar attempt. You know, if you're going to make a breakaway attempt this early in the race, you either lap the field or you go backwards. There's no way you're going to stay out just by yourself for 180 laps.
Now, Phi Kappa Sigma is about a turn behind, and then the pack is about half a lap behind. And Bears is telling their team to wait for everybody else to kind of slow down. They're not in any hurry right now from their whiteboard. And would you be? I mean, you see a team half a lap ahead. It's really early. It's 22 of 200 laps in, but Fiji does have one of the best riders in this race in Matt Cooper. He's not on the bike right now, but he is there and ready to go for Fiji when needed.
Yeah, you know, if I was on the bike, I wouldn't really start getting worried about it until they get 3/4 of a lap up. If they can start seeing the backs of the riders in front of them, and they can see kind of that carrot that they're trying to chase after, that's when it gets a little bit scary. But it seems like things are picking up a little bit. I think maybe the field just realized that somebody was off the front, so they might start picking up the laps just to make sure that they don't sleep on Fiji. But if I were a betting man, I would probably not say Fiji is going to lap the field here.
Yeah, Cutters and Grey Goat as well as Bears are leading the pack, trying to catch Fiji as they go for another exchange, and they'll put Nick Olsen, a senior, on the mound. Not a great exchange there, Charlie?
Another one. He slipped off the pedals twice. He's okay now, but that wasn't a great exchange.
He has lost maybe a couple of seconds of his lead, but for the most part, the lead has stayed steady here for Fiji early. Here's Phi's side. They're getting ready for an exchange, so they're going for a burnout here. And you can just see how easy people take it around turn one. There's nobody putting much effort into turn one because they know if they go too fast, they're going to spin out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might be part of Fiji's strategy here, is they're just tired of these loose turns. They want to ride by themselves and see if they can get, you know, potentially a lap up on the field. I think they've got about a 17-second.
There's a crash in turn 3. Couple of teams involved. It looks like SIGEP is involved in this.
Beta Theta Pi.
That is a big blow for a couple of these teams early in the race. SIGEP toward the front. Looks like Army cycling in there, as well as Beta Theta Pi, as you mentioned.
Looks like SIGEP got back on his bike really quick. You hate to see it, but he responded well, and I think he's going to catch back on. You never want to see, you know, a contending team get crashed so early in the race.
No yellow from that crash, so fortunately able to continue racing here for the time being. Bears is making an exchange here on the near side. They're going to go to Cooper Young. And Young will hop on the bike for Bears as the pack continues to try and catch the Fiji team that has raced out in front right now. And they've raced out in front very similarly to the way Delta Gamma raced out in front of the women's race. And joining us right now is the play-by-play broadcaster of the race that happened earlier today. Connor Hines is joining us. Connor, welcome into the booth. You've been in all day, but now you get to join us here.
Fellas, thank you. It's good to be here. Good start to this one. Obviously, Fiji trying to make their move, and as you already mentioned, a much more bunch set to what we saw earlier in the women's race. So looking forward to a fun afternoon here in race number 2.
SIGEP as well as Acacia making a change here. SIGEP getting a new rider on. Hopefully he's okay. It was Pablo Fierce Garcia who got caught up in that crash, and they will try and catch up now. But it is Fiji out about a half a lap in front. Connor, that kind of felt like the story throughout the women's race. It's Delta Gamma, half a lap, 3/4 of a lap, a full lap ahead. How did they go about winning that race and getting so far ahead of everybody?
I mean, it's funny. You guys were all here. The next thing we knew, we thought Delta Gamma was behind, and then we looked at the updated standings and where they were, and suddenly they're a half a lap ahead. Caitlin Van Kooten and I, we both couldn't believe it, and I believe that's only happened once or twice before ever in the women's race. Really impressive stuff all the way around. I mean, we knew that Delta Gamma was going to have what it takes coming in, getting their 4th Little 5 championship title today. Eleanor Madelon, the #1 rider on that team, but it was Catherine Free, the captain, who really made the move for Delta Gamma late. And she stayed on the bike the rest of the way. I mean, she waved off exchange after exchange. It was just a really cool thing to see Delta Gamma really take over the women's race today.
Yeah, this has been a fun day of racing. It's been really good to get the racing back. We didn't have it last year, and it's been really interesting to see how teams try and make moves. BKB is moving to the front of a very stretched out pack right now. Everybody trying to catch Fiji, who's coming in for another exchange. From what you watched, Connor, in that first race, as the teams trying to make the comeback, what do you expect to see from these chasers as they head into the middle of this race?
Well, it's funny. We saw in the women's race, I mean, it almost became a second race, in a race between Alpha Z Delta and Melanzana and, of course, Kappa Alpha Theta that started in last position today. So, I mean, more than anything else, it was about finding ways to conserve that energy and not overwork your team when Delta Gamma was so far ahead. And as we begin to see this group spread out a little more here in the men's race, I think we might see maybe a couple similar themes that we saw earlier today in the women's race.
Yeah, Fiji's still out in front, but the lead is definitely shrinking, Charlie, just a little bit here as the pack is catching up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the pack kind of realized that Fiji was out the front. They don't want to make that move. They don't want to let that move stick. I think they also realized that it looks like Cutters and Sigap were both off the back. Sigap just made contact with the lead group, so really great job for them to respond to that crash and get back on. Kudos to Sigap. Looks like even Cutters, though, is a little bit off the pack. I didn't see what happened exactly. Maybe a bad exchange, but I think that they'll be okay. They're working with Phi Delta Theta right now to get back on.
Well, Connor, I want to thank you for coming on here for a couple of laps. It's been good to chat with you. Good to watch the women's race. It's been an exciting day here at Bill Armstrong Stadium for sure.
Absolutely. It was fun watching Delta Gamma win today. Obviously, it's going to be a fun finish, as it always is with this men's race. Thanks, guys. Have a good call.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate you jumping on here. And the leaders, Fiji, are pulling away right now from the pack. And with more on Fiji, our pit reporter, Griffin Gonzalez, has a report.
I actually just chatted with Mike Pitts, who just graduated. He's their student coach, and he was telling me a little bit about how well Matt Cooper, he's one of the most experienced riders in this race. He's actually the captain of this Fiji team. How well he has trained these guys over the past 2 years getting ready for this race. He added that he feels that this is the most talented group Fiji has had in recent memory, and this is a team that usually hangs with the front of the pack for the first 100 laps, but then the second 100 laps come in, and that's where Cooper says his training has come in huge. Because that second 100, they've been working on endurance for 2 years. So the question is, will they have enough endurance to keep them at the front of this pack in lap 200? Should be fun to see.
That's always the question, Griffin. 33 laps in. Good reporting again, talking with Fiji, the team that is out in front right now by about a third of a lap right now. But it is Jet Black and BKB leading the pack to try and get back. Two teams we expected to be very much in the thick of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Fiji gap is a little bit less than a half a lap right now. I think the chase group has slowed down a little bit compared to a few laps ago, so I think Fiji kind of pulled away a little bit more. I think, to be honest with you, this is inevitably going to come back together, but it has definitely been a valiant effort for Fiji so far.
Did this speed things up at all, do you think? Is Fiji throwing people maybe off of their plans that they came in starting the race with?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit, and it's always good for these teams to make the pace of the race pick up a little bit, and Fiji did just that. I hope that either they keep this going and they lap the field, or if it does come back together, I hope Fiji can rest in the pit and be back with the pack to keep fighting during the race. So we'll see what happens. I think it's right about still at a half lap.
And it's been a very impressive start. I believe it is Matt Cooper. It is still on the bike for Phi Gamma Fiji, Phi Gamma Delta, leading the way as they cross the start-finish line into lap 36. They are leading the way here in the men's Little 500. Phi Gamma Delta started in the 10th spot, and they have started out, but a big couple of exchanges here. Sigap is changing on to its top rider. William Pitts will hop on, and Cutters is putting on Alex Smith, the junior. And there is a crash in turn one. It is a single bike crash. And down in that, it looks like it is Delta Sigma Pi. Or is that Pi Lambda Phi? I think that's Pylam Defy. Yeah, that's down. And they are off the bike right now. So they have some issues here as they need a new bike coming.
Yeah, I don't think that it looks like their team just found out that their guy went down. It's tough when you don't see the rider go down. Yeah, so they just tagged out. He's going to enter the pack, but you hate to see that happen. They're going to, basically lose a whole lap because of that crash.
That was a crash in turn 1, which we were almost not waiting on, but we kind of thought might happen at some point in this race. Fortunately for the pack, it was just a one-bike race as Fiji now exchanges here on the near side. They're going with a new rider. That is James Hastings on the bike now for Fiji in lap 38. Kai Alpha will be making a change. Remember, Kai Alpha is racing with 3 guys today. Chase Madsen is on the bike right now for Kai Alpha. But again, they are racing with 3 guys today because of Jazz Briggs' practice race injury, which means they need it to, what do they need, Charlie? A slow race here to stay in it?
Yeah, you hate to see someone, I think he went down with a broken collarbone in a crash in the practice race. You hate to see that, especially so close to this race. Riding with 3 riders, especially in a 200-lap race, is really tough. But really what your plan is be conservative. Don't pull, sit in, rest as much as you can, and stay on that lead in the leaders group. And at the end, if it's a sprint, you have a chance. So I would, if I were them, I would just be as conservative as possible.
Well, they've got good riders. Chase Madsen was 11th in ITTs. Jaden Dover was 30th. And Jazz Briggs, who wasn't even healthy when he raced in ITTs, got 20th. But unfortunately, he is out of the race. It's still about a half-lap lead right now for Fiji, who every time I feel like they exchange and lose a little bit of ground, they gain it right back.
Yeah, I agree. I've been honestly really impressed with, I think it's been sticking right at about a half lap for many laps now, but they have been exchanging and they've continued to increase that gap back to a half lap. So really valiant effort on their part. It looks like the chase group is beginning to string out a little bit more. I think maybe some of these top teams are kind of tired of them being off the front, or maybe going to try to shut it down a little bit more now.
Yeah, Fiji's in first with Cutters, Beta Sigma Psi, as well as Jet Black, who's making a move on the inside. They're now in second. Phi Psi is up there as Fiji is exchanging. They're going with a new rider. John Gudeman is back on the bike.
Yeah, so they just lost a lot of room on that exchange.
It's about a straightaway now ahead of Jet Black, Phi Psi, SIGEP, BKB, Phi Delt, Beta Sig is in there as well, and Cutters in that top 10. It's a big pack that is trying to chase one rider.
Yeah, and those are the big teams. Like you said, Phi Psi, SIGEP, Blackie Bulls, Jet Black, they're all at the front of the race pushing it forward. So we'll see if it comes back together soon, but like we've been saying, Fiji is really crushing it on the front right now.
This has been an impressive showing for Fiji early in this race. We are 42 laps in, and they have the early lead right now. Beta Sig making a move there. Beta Sigma Psi getting into second place ahead of Black Key Bulls and Phi Delt. This is, if you take Fiji out and you're looking for second place, it's wide open right now. They're kind of back and forth here. And you would expect at some point in a 200-lap race for these guys to catch up. Beta Sigma Psi is making an exchange on the far side. So they have a new bike, or new biker on. Acacia is making a change here on the near side. And so is Bears. So this will be something to watch here. 2 guys exchanging right next to each other.
And Jet Black looks like they're ready for exchange in the start of turn 2 as well.
They certainly are. So here's Acacia coming in, and Acacia hits Bears' bike.
Yeah, the bikes are tangled.
Fortunately, Bears was not trying to make its exchange yet, but that'll be Vincent Obermeyer who will be looking to exchange for Bears. And Jet Black has made their exchange now on the far side. A lot happening here as Fiji now makes an exchange. They are putting Nick Olsen, the senior, back on the bike.
Like we said, after that last exchange, they extended the lead again. It was right at about a straightaway after their exchange, and now it's a little more than a straightaway, but they're definitely keeping the gap.
This has been a crazy start to the race. The pack is about half a lap behind Fiji or so. Bears makes its exchange pretty smooth there, and they are off and running, trying to get back into that pack that is chasing Phi Gamma Delta right now. as they are making its way around turn 4, and they will be completing their 44th lap. We are nearly a fourth of the way through, and like you said, the pit doesn't look like they're surprised by this, Charlie. This feels like a tactical move by Fiji to get out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they probably planned this before the race. It looks like they're continuing to push it forward. They're not letting up. So I'm interested to see how this plays off in the next 10 to 15 laps.
Our pit reporter Griffin Gonzalez is on the pits with one of the contenders, Beta Sigma Psi.
Yeah, Austin, I was telling you pregame, I really thought Beta Sig was going to be my dark horse. They're in the top 5 right now. I'm here with their head coach, Nate Hope Nelson. Nate, I got to ask, first of all, are you surprised so far by how well your team's doing?
No, I think we're doing just how you planned. We're working really hard. We're getting our exchanges in, following good wheels, and, just staying safe and making sure to avoid turn 1 a little bit.
Now, Nate, I got to ask, you were supposed to be riding in this race last year. It was going to be your final race as a senior. You graduated during all the pandemic stuff, and you came back here to help this team come back and do what they're doing right now as we're watching. Talk about the emotion that comes with that, missing your final race, but getting to help these guys.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, me and my other co-captain a few years ago started the program essentially from start with Anoop and Trent here. We started a few years. We worked really hard the first year, crashed out, got 16th. And so last year was going to be our race, get that top 5, top 3 podium spot, try to show our house, like, what we're made of, and show everyone else that, Basic Messiah is here to stay. It was really upsetting at first, but I wanted to come back, support these guys. They've done a fantastic job just being there, being supportive of one another, and just working through, all the kind of ups and downs of this year with COVID and everything. So.
All right, give me the X and O's. How do you hold on to this top 5 lead right now? It's a long race. It's a lot of endurance.
It's a long race. We got, a few little gels of caffeine to keep us going, some Gatorade, race smart, good communication, and just stay on some good wheels and just have fun with it. It's race day after all.
Caffeine and Gatorade. That actually sounds like a good recipe for me, too. I might go get some as well. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Best of luck the rest of the way. Back to you guys.
Griffin's getting a little hot down there, moving around from pit to pit. It is a humid day, but not a whole lot of wind, and it's been dry for most of the day, which is beneficial. Exchange here the near side for Gray Goat, and that will be hopping on to the bike for Gray Goat, Jacob Richards. And something that I wanted to talk to you about during that interview, every time Fiji has come around here, their pit is telling them, kind of giving them the relax, slow down kind of signs. Like, look at them all right now. They're all kind of doing that, like, slow down. They've got a big lead right now. They don't want to waste all their energy here in lap 49.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It looked like when the rider went by his pit this time, his coach was, yelling at him, and I could see definitely like kind of a slowing down physical difference in his pedal stroke. So I think that they're probably either just trying to steady state, ride a pace that it's not going to tire you out later and keep the gap, but definitely don't keep burning matches trying to push this forward.
Well, it's Fiji followed by Black Key Bulls, Beta Sig, Jet Black, and Sig Ep as we are a fourth of the way through this men's Little 500. And an important part of the men's Little 500, besides those people on the bikes, is the steering committee, and they were recognized before our races today.
The Indiana University Student Foundation's mission is to grow lifetime commitment to and support for Indiana University through student-led programming and leadership development opportunities, which are educational, philanthropic, and fun. The organization has membership of over 300 undergraduate students and is led by a 27-member steering committee now on the infield. This group has been working all year to plan every aspect of today's Little 500 race. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the 2020-2021 IU Student Foundation Steering Committee. The president, Braden Greenbaum from Atlanta, Georgia. Vice President, Michaela Jennings, West Lafayette. Jessica Abbott, Indianapolis. Julianne Alspaw, Indianapolis. Matthew Barden, Fort Wayne. Garrett Conway, Muncie. Alex Cox, Henderson, Nevada. Nicole Crocker from Kokomo. Jane Dorsey, Indianapolis. Meredith Ellison, Indianapolis. Bryce Farmer, Hardinsburg. Olivia Graft, Fort Wayne. Michelle Helm, Carmel. Samed Kamat from Kendall Park, New Jersey. Christopher Klein, Fort Collins, Colorado. Abigail Oliphant, Carmel. Sydney Rexing from Evansville. Will Riggert, Bloomington. Will Saul, Fishers. Benton Schultz, Bloomington. Aman Sikand, Indianapolis. Jonathan Villegas from Indianapolis. Lucy Whalage from Indianapolis. Rachel Wiedenhofer from Fort Wayne. Jasper Webke from Zionsville. Kate Wood, Louisville, Kentucky. And Aldridge Zymick from Bloomington. On behalf of the steering committee, welcome to the 2021 Little 500.
Welcome back here to Bill Armstrong Stadium. Big thank you to the steering committee and all that they do to help get these races going. It's such a crazy year. It is good to have these races back. Fiji is making an exchange here on the near side, and they will give it the bike back to Matthew Cooper. And they go with the exchange there and take a much lesser lead than we've seen here over the past couple of laps. The pack is slowly starting to catch them, led by Grego.
Yeah, I think that this is going to come back together probably in the next few laps. It's about a half a straightaway right now. And I think that the pack is, sees Fiji and is ready to just kind of shut this down.
But does it feel like, based on what we've watched from the Fiji pit, that that's by design almost, because they're maybe expending too much energy out in front?
Yeah, I think that it was a really, really great coaching decision. I think that they had a really valiant effort, but at some point you got to pull the plug and you don't want to tire yourself out if it's not going to go anywhere. So good coaching decision to say, hey, let's sit up, let's bring it back together, and let's rest for later race tactics.
And here comes the pack, Phi Delta Theta and Beta Sigma Psi, Jet Black, all catching up. Chi Alpha is in there with Sig Ep and Grego, Cutters. Everybody's in there. Phi Psi, it's back to a bunched up setup here with Fiji's lead down to just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I don't love the positioning of Black Key Bulls. They're kind of sitting in the back right now. Looks like they're starting to move their way up now. But yeah, like you said, everything's just kind of coming together. They're maybe taking their time a little bit. They know Fiji's there. They know they're coming. They're going to get him. But now as the exchanges start to happen, it looks like Jet Black's going to exchange. And it looks like Sig Ep is going to follow that out. They don't have a rider out, so they might be attacking right now.
Yeah, Jet Black looks like it's coming out wide here at the second turn to make an exchange. And they will give up their lead in the pack for just a moment, but the pack has officially caught Fiji here with Sig Ep, Grego, and Phi Psi. That's Phi Del, about to take the lead. And in fact, we do have a new leader. It is Sigma Phi Epsilon in the front of the pack now with Grego and Phi Delt following behind. And Matt Cooper is now going to join a pack for the first time in a while.
Valiant effort, like we've said, for Fiji. That was a really great effort. Also very, very smart to pull the plug at the right time. Good job. It's exciting to see them kind of fit right back in the pack and join back into the rest of the field.
So your top 10 right now: Grey Goat, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Phi Delta Theta, Phi Gamma Delta, and 3PH Cycling are in your top 5. Cutters, Chi Alpha, CSF Cycling, Acacia, and Beta Sigma Psi are 6 through 10, with Bears, Black Key Bulls, Jet Black, and Phi Psi also on the lead lap. 14 teams on the lead lap, and now you're seeing BKB make a bit of a surge here with Austin Goodwin on the bike, charging around, but nearly lost it in turn 1.
Yeah, he just nearly lost it. It looks like he's working his way back in front of the field. Looks like Sig Ep, Grey Goat, and Fiji have a slight 50-yard gap on the rest of the field. Looks like that's going to
Around turn 3 comes the lead pack, and as the lead pack is heading into lap 60, we are going to check down with our pit reporter, Griffin Gonzalez. What do you have for us, Griffin?
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm down here with Jason Fowler, coach of Cutters, and it's Cutters. You knew they were going to be here, top 3 right now. You're going for a 3-peat today. Talk to me about the tradition that is this Cutters program.
Yeah, we've been around, 30-plus years, and it all started with some great people like the Risingers, Randy Strong, Chris and Kathy Gutowski, which we have her nickname on our shirts today. So we're racing with the heavy heart.
With the heavy heart, you got the Woody across the white shirts today. And let me ask, you got a lot of new riders here today, but already proven to be one of the strongest teams in this field yet again. How do you do it back-to-back every year?
You know, we have a process, and the guys go through it every year. And sometimes when things look grim, you gotta trust the process. And a few coaches came up to me earlier during ITTs and said, "I thought the Cutters were going to suck this year," and I laughed at them. And you know, we joked around about it. It was all in good fun, but the guys are all rookies, and they're ready.
Now, Jason, I got to ask, because we're no stranger to this. I'm just going to call a spade here. Everyone in this field pretty much wants to beat you guys more than anybody else. You got a target on your back. You have it from day one. You're going to have it tomorrow morning, whether you like it or not, for the 2022 race. Talk to me about the added pressure that comes with that. Is it too much ever?
No, I mean, we accept the pressure. I think it's a great honor. Pressure I have is just beating Ryan Knapp and the Black Key Bulls. If we beat him, he has to take me to a Foo Fighters concert. If they beat us, I have to take him to a Katy Perry concert. So I want to go to Foo Fighters.
Yeah, you don't want to go to Katy Perry, I don't think. Thank you, Ryan. Best of luck the rest of the way. Cutters, they're back, if we ever doubted it.
Griffin, which one would you go to, Katy Perry or Foo Fighters?
Foo Fighters, absolutely. Okay. Is that even a question? Oh, my goodness. Maybe Katy Perry in like 2011, but...
Who knew that Ryan Knapp was such a big Katy Perry fan? Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I'm siding with Ryan Knapp on this one. My first ever concert was actually Katy Perry around that 2011 timeframe, so maybe I'm biased because, you know, Ryan was my coach, but I'm siding with him on this one.
Beta Sigma Psi has taken the lead here. They're about a third of a straightaway ahead of the pack, which is led by Fiji, and Matt Cooper is still out there on the bike, but Beta Sigma Psi coming around turn 4 in the lead right now. And that rivalry is there. Cutters at BKB, you were a part of it a couple of years ago when you won in 2017. They're friendly rivalries, right? I mean, you're friends for 364 days of the year, and then there's one day where you all want to beat each other.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's always this mutual respect. Like, I always respect...
We have a crash out in turn 1. Bears is down. Phi Psi is down. And they will have to regroup. Phi Psi going to quickly get on the bike. Bears is having to hobble off.
Oh, this is not good for Bears. They aren't able to ride their bike. They're rushing a bike over now. They're about to get back on the track. Right now, they're over a half lap down because of that. Oh, you hate to see that. That's what, crash number 2 in turn 1 now?
Yeah, Bears, Phi Psi, and Delta Upsilon all involved in that crash around turn 1. We knew it would play a factor, and early in the first 65 laps, it is very much playing a factor in this race.
Looks like Phi Psi is not too far off the pack.
They were able to get back on their bike, fortunately.
Yeah, they're about a half straightaway down. So kudos to him to getting back up right away and getting back on the bike. It looked like Bears might have had a mechanical with their bike and weren't able to ride it, so they had to rush their other one.
Connor Frankie had to race out there and get back on the bike. I believe their rider that was on the bike, yeah, he's being carted off right now. He was stretching out his shoulder, so he is getting some medical assistance right now. We hope that he's okay, but Bears for the time being will race with 3, and they're about a half lap behind. Gray Goat making a change, and they will go with their 4th rider, Jack Fahey. In Beta Sigma Psi still leading the way. They're just a little bit ahead, a couple of seconds ahead of Cutters and the rest of that pack. And as we expected, Fiji got off to a really hot start, but things like an accordion stretched out and came back in.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of accordion yo-yo effect happens just naturally throughout the 200 laps of the race. As things get faster, it will stretch out. As things get slower, it bunches back up. And obviously exchanges kind of stretch it out, which is a nice natural progression of the race.
Black Key Bulls is readying for an exchange, and they are going to take Austin Goodwin off the bike, and they will put a new man on here as they round turn 2. Remember, their pit is straight away on the far straightaway. They were last place, got the last pick of pit position. It's not the best pit position in the world, but they're in this race and they're in position. What did you think of that exchange right there?
Yeah, it looked solid. It looked safe. And it wasn't anything crazy fast. It doesn't have to be that fast this early in the race. I know Ryan Natt, their coach, is always a big believer in maybe toning it down a little bit in the first 150 laps, make sure that they're safe, and then start speeding them up later in the race. So great, safe exchange by them.
Fiji back in front. Cutters with them first and second right now. Keeping an eye on Bears, they're still about a half a lap behind as they try and make up the deficit from that crash. Turn 1 is somewhere you want to keep your eyes on at all times because it is a little bit sketchy today. We have seen 2 crashes in turn 1 so far. Bears coming in for an exchange, and they will switch onto the bike. Vincent Obermeyer. And he's still a little bit over half a lap behind, so they have to get back into this thing quickly. Acacia is coming in for an exchange. And Acacia will put back onto the bike Josh Church. He is a freshman, 53rd in ITTs, and he joins the pack again. And they settle in behind Sig Epp, who's leading the way here in lap 70. Or lap 69, excuse me, 70th lap coming up as we are inching our way through this race. It's been exciting so far. Couple of crashes. Fiji got off to a hot start.
Yeah, this is kind of that lull in the men's race. Ooh, a big crash in turn 3.
Oh my goodness, lots of bodies down. Faisai is involved again. CSF Cycling is in there, several other teams. Looks like Theta Chi is involved in this crash. CSF and Faisai are both back up on their bikes, but that is a huge crash in turn 3.
You got to feel for that Faisai rider. I think he just went through 2 crashes in the same set. It looks like he got back up quickly.
That's Andrew Lavalle, who has been through a lot in his time. And they are running the bike down turn 3 right now for Novus Cycling. He was unable to ride it, so he runs it around turn 3.
You hate to see that happen.
Novus Cycling is still a couple of laps down, but what effort by that rider to sprint around to keep the race going for Novus Cycling.
Yeah, I can see him keeling over his handlebars right now. That was a big effort. Props to him. So just making however it needed to be happen get done. So
for Novus Cycling, that was Thomas Domian, who gave incredible effort to keep that going. Faisai has caught the pack, so they are right back in it, even with 2 crashes. They are battling, and that's Andrew Lavalle. I meant to talk about him when I mentioned him just a couple seconds ago. He went through a lot in 2019, as Faisai did, with that big lead, the Lavalle brothers on the bike. He said they have learned a lot from that experience, and he is about as veteran as you can get in this race, being a part of that 2019 Faisai team.
Yeah, he's a great rider. I think he got 7th place at ITTs, so top 10 rider, raced in the 2019 race where they almost pulled away the victory. The Lavalle family, I think they've had several riders on 05. Albert for Faisai, and they also have a Theta rider, Audrey, raced for Theta this morning. So
just got 3rd this morning with Theta, a freshman, if I am correct, and just an incredible amount of freshmen who have worked really hard to be on race day rosters in their first year, which is truly incredible. Sig Epp is going to, they're burning here for an exchange. Looks like Faisai may be doing the same. How about Faisai quickly back up in front?
It's awesome. You love to see that. They want to win this race. They're not going to let anything come in their way.
I don't think they're getting ready for an exchange. Lavalle and Cutter's on his wheel as well. They waved off an exchange as Sig Epp does exchange. They are going to Reese Ivory Gagne, their leader in ITT times. He is on the bike now for Sig Epp. It's Faisai and Cutters playing a little mind games with each other here. Faisai is also going to wave off the exchange, and they are 1 and 2 around turn 3.
You got to love it from Andrew Lavalle. He goes through 2 crashes, and now he's going off the front of the pack, making a big move. He's clearly ready for this race and has definitely put in the preparation to win it.
Now Cutters is going to make an exchange. They are turning to Peyton Gaskill on the bike now. And Faisai is all alone in front. They are also going to make an exchange here in the men's Little 500, the 70th edition. Austin Render, Charlie Hammon, Griffin Gonzalez down in the pits with you here today on a beautiful day in Bloomington. Faisai makes a solid exchange. They are out in front right now.
Yeah, that was a great effort. Good exchange from Faisai. It was safe, and he's right back in the front of the pack. That's the ideal scenario for an exchange, so good job to Faisai.
Bears is getting ready for an exchange. Bears is catching up, Charlie. They are just in the back of this pack here. They were also involved in one of those crashes.
Yep, great effort from Bears to come back. They just did an exchange, so they're going to be a little bit off the back right now. Ooh, that rider is slipping off his pedals.
Uh-oh, he is stuck on his bike. That's Cooper Young, who could not get a clean exchange going. And Cooper Young will now try and make up that ground we had just talked about they had made up.
You know, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of riders slip off the pedals in their exchanges this year. I think more often than I've seen in past races.
Here's Acacia burning out. They are in the lead and will go for an exchange, which will then give Sigap first place again.
Looks like Sigap is on the front, keeping a hot pace. They look strong. They look fit. Good job for Sigap doing their turn at the front. Looks like Fiji's pulling through. They did that big effort at the beginning of the race, and they're still, doing their fair share, as they say, of work at the front. So good job.
Yeah, BKB has caught up in the second place. They started in last. They had to make a big comeback. And for more on the BKB team as a whole and their strategy entering into this race, I caught up with a couple of those riders and their coach Ryan Knapp ahead of the race.
Year in and year out, Black Key Bowls plays a key role in the men's Little 500. That won't change in 2021 for a few reasons. First, they have the ITT champion and one of the deepest teams in the field. But second, they will be starting in the last position. Due to the cancellation of quals, starting position was determined based on the finish in Team Pursuit, an event that BKB was forced to miss out on due to quarantine.
Everyone knows that we're a strong team, we're deep teamed, so to not be able to do the event that is most representative of a team that has depth was frustrating, for sure.
Starting in last means having to avoid that potential early crash, one of the many reasons Coach Ryan Knapp wants them to get out of that position quickly.
It's not rocket science. We obviously don't want to hang out there very long because, there's even in an experienced year, the start can get pretty crashy. So we would like to not be hanging out at the back that long.
Having the number one rider in the individual time trials is a good way to get out of that last place position. Robert Strobel raced in 2019 behind Xavier Martinez, and now it's Strobel that is the chased rider in the field, and according to his coach, an incredible leader.
He's been an awesome captain. He is so good with the team and keeping the team on the right, trajectory, and just having the right state of mind and keeping people focused and stuff like that. So he's a really special rider.
It's like having a friend on the varsity football team and you're on JV. It makes you want to work so much harder just to be competitive with them and be on their level, so you can support someone who's worked for 4 years to be at that level, so you can give them the race they deserve.
So winning ATTs for me is more of an affirmation of the hard work, to see the result of a year of training. So to me, it's very satisfying. It's not like a glorious moment, but it's very satisfying.
Yeah, down here with Robert Strobel. Robert, you've talked about for weeks going up to this race, how you guys start in the back, you felt confident in your ability to get back in the front. You've done it now. Tell me about how you guys were able to do that and get back up here.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was keeping composure, All the bad stuff happens when you freak out, so the biggest thing I did was just relax, tell myself I got this, and waited for an opportunity to come around the outside and work my way through the group, snaking from wheel to wheel, and then about 4 or 5 laps in, the pack slowed up just a little bit, and I just rocketed right to the front. So it was about a dream getting to the front.
You're one of the more experienced riders in this entire field right now. You have a few younger guys next to you. What was your key advice to them heading into today for their first Little 500?
I told him to just go out there and act like you're the big dog, because you are, you know. When you're out there, you got to act like you're running it. And people get out of your way. People give you a wheel. Just be confident. That's the biggest thing.
Just talked to Cutters on the other side there. They were talking about me at this friendly bet, the rivalry you guys have. They even said they don't care who they beat. As long as they beat BK, they'll be happy. Any words to follow up and respond?
They're going to be real disappointed.
I love that. We'll see. They're talking big. We'll see if they live up to it. Back to you guys up there in the booth.
That's our big dog, Griffin Gonzalez, down there in the pits doing great work today, getting some awesome sound bites from both Cutters and BKB. Those are fighting words coming from Robert Strobel right now. BKB making its way up the pack here. They're in the top 5, but everybody appears to be chasing Sigep, who, while we were in that package, escaped danger here around turn 4 a couple of times, and they're coming in for an exchange. So is Grey Goat. Grey Goat will put that's Jack Dunsford on the bike, and for Sigep, it'll be Pablo Fierce Garcia.
Looks like Black Key Bulls are also doing an exchange. Logan Brown to Gavin Goody. Logan had a great set. This is his first little 5. Top 10 ITTer at 6th place. Really good set from Logan. And looks like they had a clean exchange. Gavin on the bike with a pretty big gap to the pack, so he'll be able to just hang out, wait for the pack to catch him, and fit right back in.
Gavin Goody joined BKB a couple of months ago, and he has made an instant impact for the Black Key Bulls. As we head into lap 84, and looks like Black Key Bulls and Beta Sigma Psi leading the way, and Black Key Bulls is using Beta Sigma Psi to kind of ease their way around as turn 1 comes through, and you always have to keep your eye on turn 1.
Yeah, when we just saw Bears almost botch an exchange as well, I think that really comes down to experience. We've seen a lot of botched exchange today, whether it's riders not, handing off the bike properly or slipping off their pedals when they jump in. That really goes back to the whole storyline of experience. They just didn't have as much time to practice exchanges this year, with track practice being very specific time slots because of COVID protocols. So I'm curious to see if these exchanges are bad this early in the race when they're still, not too tired, if it's going to get even worse later as these legs get tired. And
Beta Sigma Psi is in the lead and through turn 1 again clean. That is important. Very impressed by a couple of things today, Charlie. Bears and Phi Psi's ability to bounce back off of some crashes. And Chi Alpha, who's racing with 3 guys, they are in the middle of this pack right now. Very much a part of this race. They're having a historical year. This is just their 3rd year as a team. They qualled 3rd. Again, no quals, but in team pursuit, they were 3rd. And they're missing their best rider, Jazz Briggs.
Yeah, it's awesome to see teams like Chi Alpha only being, they've only, like you said, been around for a few years, and they're already making a huge impact in this race, and already clearly working through a lot of adversity, only starting 3 riders, one of which, the rider that couldn't race is one of their top guys. So it's awesome to see these teams, over the years, the new teams come in and be a top 5 caliber team. That's what's so important to this race, and I love to see Chi Alpha up, working with the traditionally good teams this year.
How often do you see something like this? Delta Upsilon as well as Theta Chi are in front. They're not winning the race, but they actually just passed the pack on the inside to get back onto the lead lap, I believe, or maybe a couple of laps behind. I know DU's been caught in a couple of crashes today. They've been told by a couple of people to go outside, but they are sticking at the front of this pack. Again, it is Beta Sigma Psi, the 3rd team in that pack, that is in first place right now.
Yeah, it's always tough. When you get laps, you still want to be part of the pack. It's a long race, but it is very important. There's, a specific flag that's waved if they're asking you to get outside, because there have been times in the past where a lapped rider will cause a crash with the lead of the pack, and you never want to see that. So I hope that they can, keep the race safe, make sure that the teams in the lead lap are safe, and then they're not getting in the way, but still being part of the group.
Cutters is going with an exchange. John Nicholson will be hopping on the bike, and he will replace Peyton Gaskill, who gave good work for Cutters.
Yeah, clean exchange from Cutters. They've got a big gap on their exchange. Looks like they're going to fit right back in, so good job, Cutters, on that exchange.
Forest Cycling is burning out ahead, but I believe they are a lap or so behind. It is Cutters in front, Fiji in second, Bears is there, as well as Beta Sigma Psi. Griffin told us before the race, watch out for Beta Sigma Psi. They started in 12th, and they have been a factor in this race from the get-go. Anoop Chinthala, their number 1 rider, or at least started. Their best rider was Alex Cora, 21st in ITTs. And they have been a steady part of this race. It is Cutters in front right now. Fiji, Bears, Beta Sigma Psi, as well as Phi Psi and Chi Alpha. They're lining up beautifully for me there as they came across the start-finish line as we near the 90th lap of this race.
Yeah, it looks like there's really not many teams that are spread out. It looks like the pack's going to catch up to a team coming here, but they're all together, even the teams that are lapped. So hopefully it won't get too bunched up and there will be crashes. It's normally better, you know, for the top teams want to be kind of by themselves with the other top teams. So when things start to get bunched up and lap riders get in the pack, they, you know, traditionally wanted them to move to the back to make sure that there's no crashes in front of them. So I'm curious to see what happens with the pack now.
Cutters crosses the line again in first. Fiji and Beta Sig right behind in lap 90.
See them going through turn 1 again. People are scared of that turn.
Grimace.
You can tell.
You grimace every time they come. I see you almost shake. Like, do you want to get on the bike and go through turn 1 right
now? No, definitely
not. Absolutely not.
It is scary because you see them and they want to brake and then their wheel sputters. It's not fun to watch.
You know what is fun? Being a lap counter. And that is who Griffin Gonzalez is with right now. Griffin?
Yeah, guys, you know, this is arguably one of the most important jobs here at the track because these are the guys who tell you where you're at and how much longer you have to go. I'm here with Caleb Cooper from Phi Psi and Nathan Cesarski from Sig Up. They just did it. They flipped them as they're coming around the track here. And these guys are both rookie riders. This is kind of how you earn your way to the track. You got to do a little lap counting to get there. And these guys are enjoying your day. You're doing well. I mean, your team's doing great.
Yeah, I'm happy. Seeing you get to see the whole field. Happy to be here. I know a lot of fans couldn't get in, so just happy.
There you go. And Nathan, you're a junior getting back to Little 5, getting able to watch this. SIG Up doing pretty well today. How's it been watching them?
It's been really fun. I mean, I feel very fortunate being a rookie and being able to be here. I know a lot of people can't be here. And being a rookie, it's kind of good to get experience and see kind of how the race is played out and strategies that teams play. And I'm happy to be here. It's a good experience.
Hey, I might just stay up here, the best view in the house up here. So I'll send it back to your guys' best view in the house up there in the booth.
Thanks, Griffin. We just had a crash there while we were with Griffin. It was a single crash for Forest Cycling, Matthew Walsh, the biker. They went yellow. We are under yellow right now because Walsh had a slow time getting off the track. He is off and up right now, being attended to by the medical staff here. And Forrest is having a tough time getting back onto the bike. I'm not sure what's going on with his bike, but he's finally back on it and pedaling away. But Forrest is a couple of laps down here today.
It looks like we'll probably go back to green flag racing on this lap.
Yeah, Chappie Blackwell standing at the start-finish line. He's still waving yellow, and now here we go. We are going green with CSF Cycling in front. Cutters, Fiji, Grey Goat, Beta Sig in the top 5.
Oh, that turn 1, I mean, that's the third crash in turn 1, and that was even so, like, it's pretty bad. You see their wheels go through it. They're constantly sputtering. Like you said, I grimace every time.
I wish we had a camera on you every time they went through turn 1, because you make a face like you're scared for them.
Yes.
Because of something that can happen. We've seen 3 players be medically taken off because of turn 1. It is a dangerous situation right now. But that was the beauty in the women's race, that DG was just kind of able to go wide around turn 1 because they had such a big lead. Right now it's Grey Goat back out in front as we head into lap 94.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, DG literally just completely avoided it, and they were able to because they were off the front solo. So I'm curious to see, you know, later in the race when teams start making those serious breakaway attempts, if that's going to be part of the kind of their thought process of, you know, there's too many crashes in turn 1. Let's make this a smaller pack.
Everybody's staying in the pack right now, where I believe you told me you expend about 30% less effort when you are in the pack, which is actually really starting to string out here around turn 3 and 4. Jet Black is going for an exchange. They are leading the way. Cutters is trying to stay on their wheel. Fiji and Beta Sig, CSF cycling there as well, and you can just see everybody slow it down just quickly there through turn 1, and then the speeds are back up. Jet Black is not going to exchange. They are going to go for one more.
Yeah, you never want to see people coasting through the turns. It's just, like, as a good rider, you just want to avoid that as much as you can, but every single time they go through turn 1, everybody is coasting.
Unless you have that inside lane, that's the only area I think they're about 2 feet wide of space. CSF, I don't know if they're burning out or not, but they are in the lead right now. Phi-Sci has somebody out for an exchange. They're going wide through the beach, as Griffin described it there in turn. That feels like a great description as Fidel spins out there in the turn 1.
Yeah, Fidel just had to go very wide in turn 1. I think that's really why these teams are crashing, is they get caught up in the bad part of it, and then it gets worse, and then they just kind of like can't control it as they're going through the turn.
Both Phi-Sci and CSF with successful exchanges. They're back in the pack. Well, that's the thing. Turn 1 has this area you'll see here as they come around the start-finish line. They have this area at the turn, and then there's a little area just after the turn, right there, that Theta Chi just went through, that has just a little bit more rough to it. So you think you get through the first one, you get balanced back up, and then you hit another patch of loose sand. BKB going for an exchange on the far side. Chi Alpha is going to make an exchange when they come around. They are in the lead right now, turning around turn 3. Cutters is as well. This is going to be very interesting to watch here on the near side. 2 pits right next to each other, making an exchange. Chi Alpha and Cutters coming in. No, Cutters will stay for one more. No, they're going to come in. And that's a pretty good exchange there. Chase Madsen on the bike for Chi Alpha and Alex Smith on the bike for Cutters.
Yeah, that was a great exchange, especially 2 top teams exchanged together. That was the ideal scenario. They stayed out of each other's ways, but they, still were able to link up to catch back the pack together.
That was good communication, too. You could see the Cutters rider telling his guy to go a little bit wider so that he would not collide with Chi Alpha, who, again, continues to be in this race. The endurance, though, will be interesting with 3 riders. We're nearly halfway through. They are very much a part of this. Fiji in front. Here comes CSF around the outside into turn 1. Everybody puts on the brakes, and we're good on another round of turn 1.
Yeah, you saw Black Key Bulls get kind of caught in the inside of the track there. He kind of had to avoid some of the wheels in front of him, but he kept it up. So good bike handling from Austin Goodwin there.
Coming around here, lap 99, heading into lap 100 here with the 70th Men's Little 500. Austin Render, Charlie Hammon, Griffin Gonzalez with you. 3PH and SIGEP crossing the line. It is them in front of this one here early. Let's get you your 1 through 18 as I see it on my screen. 18th is Phi Kappa Sigma. Army Cycling is 17th. Pi Lambda Phi is 16th. Delta Sigma Pi is 15th. CSF Cycling is 14th. Acacia is 13th. Chi Alpha is 12th with Cutters at 11th. Phi-Sci in 10th. Jet Black 9th. BKB in 8th. Fiji in 7th. Bears in 6th. Grey Goat in 5th. Beta Sigma Psi in 4th. SIGEP in 3rd. 3PH in 2nd. And it's Phi Delta Theta leading the way right now.
Yeah, so we got about 14 teams on the lead lap still. So about a third or so of the riders that started this race are no longer on the lead lap. 14 teams with 100 laps in. I think that's about right for previous races. I think it will start to thin out a little more in the 150 range, 150 to 175. But 14 teams is about right. We'll see if there is any of those kind of early lap 100 to 150 attacks. But I think right now the pack is just kind of content to be in this lap 50 to 150 lull and just kind of keep the laps coming and wait for some of the later laps to make the big moves.
Here's Grey Goat burning out of the near side, lap 102, and they will go to Jacob Richards, their captain. Bears is coming on the inside. Boy, that was close. They avoided disaster there, handing off the bike to Vincent Obermeyer. Bears again still has just 3 riders. John Thomas was shaken up earlier in the crash that Bears was involved in and has not returned to their pit. So they are racing with 3. Chi Alpha is racing with 3. That's something to watch as we go through the second half of this race. Well, we're halfway through, so it feels like a good time to pause for a fun segment that Griffin Gonzalez did earlier this week. He talked to a lot of the racers. What do you do before the big race? Here's what they had to say to Griffin Gonzalez.
Okay, let's ask you this. Pre-race routine. What are you doing to get ready?
Pre-race routine. I'm definitely going to go to bed pretty early the night before, wake up early, get a nice breakfast in, throw in my headphones, listen to some EDM, get my heart pumping, get some stretches in before the race, and just start cycling, get my legs warmed up before the race too.
I always like to eat an apple. I absolutely love apples. Honestly, most of the time we'll throw on another race. Just kind of look and see what other teams are doing in previous years.
Every year before race day, I've gotten a haircut. A few days before, let it grow so you look good in the pictures after.
Here definitely has the aux cord. Don't know what he's gonna play. It's whatever he's feeling. Maybe some big booty mix, maybe some hip hop. You know, keeping the vibes excited. And then this year we'll actually get to watch the women's race a little bit beforehand too, which will be exciting. And then we'll just head to the track.
Most importantly, you know, get our caffeine in. You know, whether it's a Rockstar, Bang, coffee. It's usually what we do.
And we listen to a lot of we like Aerosmith a lot, Metallica, a lot of heavy stuff to sort of just get us pumped up and lock in, you know, go tunnel vision for the race.
Well, what's the pre-race routine? What are you guys doing to get ready? Is it something goofy? What are you guys doing?
We just hang out, play video games. Pretty fun.
Just play video games?
Yeah, pretty much.
On race day? Maybe that's the secret.
Maybe that is the secret, Charlie. They've won back-to-back Little 500s. What was your pre-race ritual?
That's a good question.
I think Josh asked you this in 2019, but I'm going to ask you again.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm always the one that just has to worry about everything. That's how I cope. So I was just double, triple checking everything, my bag, making sure that I had my knee warmers, my arm warmers, my helmet, everything. And then I just put Kendrick Lamar on repeat. Mainly the song Humble was probably my favorite song of all time, and just listened to that on repeat until the race started.
There you go. And he is humble. He's the 2017 champion right here, sitting to my left. Charlie Hammon was a part of that Black Key Bulls championship run that you heard in the intro in 2017. Chi Alpha is out in front right now as we head into lap 106. We are over the halfway mark, and we have had plenty of fireworks here in the first 100-plus laps. Charlie, what has stood out to you?
Yeah, I think that the early, like we were talking about, the early breakaway attempt from Fiji, I think that was really good to thin out some of that third of the pack that is no longer in the lead lap. But I think the top contenders, the Cutters, the Jet Black, the Black Key Bulls, Phi-Psi, they've dealt with 2 crashes. They're all in the lead pack. They seem to be riding really well, especially given the track conditions. I've honestly been so impressed with the way that the pack has been riding, just based off the experience issue that we've been talking about. So overall, a really solid race so far, and I'm really happy that these guys were able to have this opportunity and really put it on the line today. Absolutely.
Cutters is out in front, CSF Cycling and Black Key Bulls. Here comes Jet Black around the outside. Same with Grey Goat and Chi Alpha. So maybe trying to separate themselves a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like Jet Black is doing those big full lap burns. So when you burn, you're jumping off the front of the pack to get an exchange. They've been doing full lap burns, which is interesting. Some teams tend to only do 3/4 or half lap burns. So
well, Grey Goat and Chi Alpha are not exchanging, but they have separated from the pack, and they will be first and second after this Jet Black exchange. Jet Black exchanges pretty smooth, a long run up there.
Yeah, he's got plenty of space to get himself back in the pack. So great exchange from Jet Black there.
Well, Chi Alpha is at the front right now of this race with just 3 riders. They're an incredible story, and Griffin Gonzalez is in their pit right now.
With Jonathan Frazier and Jonathan, I mean, first off, first 100 laps in, you guys are doing really well, a lot better than a lot of people might have expected you guys to do. Well, tell me about the mentality that comes with that.
We had 4 good riders coming up into the practice race, and we lost one. And a lot of people probably just assumed that we were going to give up, participate in the race, and be done with it. But we know the kind of work we put in. We put in the hours, and we understand how strong we are. So obviously, we're still going to go after it. We're still in the lead lap, 108 laps in. We plan on being there in the last one. So that's the mentality we're trying to get. We're trying to get our top guys to the last lap and see what happens.
So much of this race is based on endurance. How is your guys' training regimen? What about that really helps you down the stretch of these final 90 laps or so?
Yeah, our coach, Chris Anderson, he knows exactly what he's doing. I think his resume, even though he's a new coach, kind of speaks for itself. His girls got second. We're trying to get podium as well. And in terms of like the endurance training, the best tip Chris ever gave me was just get as many miles on the bike as possible, and that's what we've done. You know, whether it was long rides in Florida, long rides on the trainer in the winter, or even recently, 4 or 5 hour rides on Saturdays. You know, we know what we have to do. It's just a matter of whether we wanted to do it or not, and we did.
Final one for you. Talk to me about the track conditions out here today. Mainly that turn 1. I know they've been pumping the brakes a lot right there. What's it like going through there?
Turn 1 is probably. That might be, out of all the times I've practiced here, and including today, that might be the worst turn I've ever seen. So if that says anything in itself, it's pretty nasty. You see guys constantly yelling slow, slow as you go through the corner. If you know what you're doing, you're going to try to get on the inside so you can avoid it. So, once you get in around the turn 1 here, it's about getting it in the inside so you don't fishtail your bike.
Jonathan Frazier, they're trying to hold on with Chi Alpha.
Thanks, Griffin. It has been a great story today for Chi Alpha. It'll be a great story for their head coach, or their coach. I guess they don't really call them head coaches in this business. But Chris Anderson was with AZD in the women's race. They got second. Be quite a performance. This is his second year coaching. If he could get on the podium in both races, that would be impressive.
Yeah, that would be impressive. I think that he is a pretty experienced bike racer and rode Little 5 himself, so it's awesome to see him come back and coach, especially a team like Chi Alpha that really needs that, someone who has that experience being a new team. It's great to see him being involved with them, as well as the women's side as well. Yeah,
he raced in the inaugural year for Chi Alpha back in 2018, and now they are in the thick of things here. And you heard Jonathan Frazier talk about that turn. He said it's the worst he has seen it. That's got to be a little bit scary as you go down the final laps when you're trying to make up ground. Puts that much more importance on being involved at the end. Here's CSF Cycling, about 1/4 of a lap ahead here. They burnt out and now have a bit of a lead right now.
Yeah, they are about a straightaway up. I'm curious. I mean, they look like they're moving this forward.
I would expect some teams to do that. Are we in that point in the race now where some teams may try and do that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the breakaway attempts between like the 100 to 150 just statistically don't stay away.
But teams will still try.
But they will try, and it's great, honestly, for the rest of the riders. I mean, it could stick away. I'm not saying that it won't, but it's great for the rest of the riders because it just kind of pushes the race forward and kind of forces people to ride a little harder. Because sometimes if nothing's going on, the pack is just kind of content to just hang out and go 4 wide and make the race slow. So it's always great when these teams do it because I do think that it pushes the race forward.
Phi Delta Theta makes an exchange and they will throw Jimmy Kulik on the bike. They go bike to bike. Fiji's been doing 1 bike exchanges. When you exchange, what did you find easier?
Well, I personally like rider exchanges. They are definitely harder, but they're quicker. So the difference being in a rider exchange, only the rider is moving, so you're passing the bike like a baton. In a bike-to-bike, both the bikes are on the track, so both the bike and the rider is being exchanged. Those are definitely safer just because you're not moving the baton of the bicycle at high speeds and handing it off to somebody. But the rider exchanges are definitely quicker, and honestly, in my opinion, I think they look a lot cooler, so that's part of it.
There you go. CSF is about half a lap ahead. They finished 20th in 2019. This is their 9th Little 500 appearance. Their highest finish was in 2018 when they were in 12th, and that was a poor exchange there. Whoever exchanged for CSF just fell off the bike. They're going now, but he is a little shaken up as he heads to the pit. But on the inside of lap 4, CSF Cycling, 1:15 in. And he's got the lead in this men's Little 500.
Yeah, they do have almost a half lap on the pack. I mean, this is a great effort. They're the 9th place team pursuit qualification. They do have a solid roster with ITT places between like the 40th and 90th position. So they're experienced. They've been experienced in the bike in Little 5, but they are pushing this forward. So definitely a valiant effort from CSF today.
It's about a 15-second gap right now. Daniel Vargas is the only rider on CSF that has racing experience in the Little 5. He raced in 2019. But right now on the bike is Luke Barrow, and he has given CSF a lead that is shrinking a little bit here. It's down to a straightaway as Siget, Bears, and Cutters, followed by BKB, Grey Goat, and Fiside trying to make up some ground.
You know, I think CSF might be just trying to get some awesome FaceTime right now. I don't blame them. I'd be doing the same thing. You want that camera on you. You want to be able to look back at this race tape and be like, hey, that was me. So good on CSF. It's a good move. I think it will probably come back together, but if nothing else, great FaceTime.
But like we saw for Fiji, they went forward early, they fell back, but they're still in the pack.
Yeah.
So maybe this is CSF just trying to make people aware, and like you said, stretch the race out a little bit, and then come back to the pack and let the things decide themselves from here on out. BKB is really closing the gap here, followed by Grey Goat and Chi Alpha.
Yeah, I think CSF is definitely kind of letting up on the pedals, waiting for the pack to catch them. So it really is important when you do make any sort of breakaway attempt to know when it's time to stop. We saw it with Fiji earlier. They made a good decision. It's like, okay, let's go backwards. Let's get back in the pack. And I think CSF is doing the same thing. So great coaching and rider awareness on their parts.
Cutters is going to make an exchange. Peyton Gaskill is moving on to the bike right now. Gaskill is waiting for his turn to exchange. Cutters has taken the lead on this burnout from Alex Smith. And there is a crash.
Is that Fiside again?
Oh, and they're unable to keep going.
It's Fiside again. That is their third crash today.
And they hustle a rider out there around turn 4 to get back out on the bike. Theta Kai coming over the inside. They need to make sure they don't hit them.
Oh, you hate to see that.
Is this Lavalle back on the bike? It is. Andrew Lavalle hops back on for Fiside. He had to replace the injured rider, and now they're a half lap behind, and he nearly bit it in turn 1.
You hate to see that. They're, like you said, about a half lap down now. It's the third crash that Fiside and Andrew Lavalle specifically have had to deal with. This one is definitely the worst of the 3. They are, like we said, a half lap down. It's going to be a tough day for them to get back onto the pack.
Chi Alpha makes an exchange and rejoins the pack. A pack that is together right now, all chasing each other. Grey Goat is burning ahead, and it looks like they're preparing for an exchange. It does look like this may be Logan Tisdale getting ready to come on the bike for Grey Goat, their most experienced rider, 4th in ITTs. He's a senior, and he's getting ready to get on the bike here as Grey Goat has taken the lead and now exchanging.
Yeah, Logan Tisdale is also our missing out champion this year, so look for him to be on the bike for them if there's a sprint, and he has a very good shot of winning it.
When you're looking at sprinters, you're looking at Logan Tisdale, Robert Strobel, Krahulick for Jet Black, Torin for Cutters, Matt Cooper for Fiji, Lavalle for Fiside. There's a lot of teams that have a really good sprinter, which is why if this race stays how it is going to be a thrilling finish.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see how those teams play out the finish. I think that you nailed it on those being kind of the top riders and the top teams that will be there at the end competing for that win if it comes down to a sprint.
Looks like Beta Sigma Psi as well as Jet Black making an exchange. CSF had the lead. They've fallen back into the pack, but Griffin Gonzalez has made his way to their pit.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Down here with Zach Mahler. He's a rider for CSF. And Zach, I mean, I talked to you guys a few weeks ago. You guys said you would have been just happy to finish. You didn't really care about who you beat. You just guys wanted to cross that finish line. And now here you are running with the rest of the pack 100 laps in. How does it feel?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, like, first goal is crossing the finish line. Second goal is crossing first place. So, you know, if we can do that, might as well do it.
And talk to me about these track conditions today. It's a little dry, humidity coming up. How's the condition going with your team going the rest of the way?
Yeah, it's dry. Definitely feel it. You know, you need some water after your set. But other than a couple sketchy turns, it's fast and feels good.
Talk to me about the mentality going the rest of the way. What's going through your mind? How do you guys get back to the front of that pack?
Know that we can stick with the big dogs and just keep doing what we're doing.
Hey, it's working so far. They just got to keep doing what they're doing, Austin.
Griffin, everybody is referring to the big dogs. That's been the phrase that everyone's used today. But and BKB called themselves the big dogs. CSF says they need to stick with the big dogs. Crash around turn 1 again, and that will involve Delta Sigma Pi. They are down and having to restart around turn 1. Caitlin Van Kooten, who was on the call for the women's race, just came up, gave us a report. Turn 1 sounds like a speed bump when they come through. That was what she told us. So things are getting a little bit sketchy again down there in turn 1.
Yeah, just looking at it from up here, some of those divots are getting really deep. And if your wheel catches one of those, that's when you start to fishtail and might hit a different rider and go down. So
Sigep in front right now in this race. We are 125 laps in. I mean, every pit has to know you're 125 laps in. Hey, watch turn 1, but I'm just hoping that doesn't play a huge factor in the finish of the race, that we can have a clean final couple of laps, because this is turning out to be a thrilling little 5 so far.
Yeah, absolutely. You never like to see it when there's a crash, near the end or at the end, and teams are taken out of contention because of something like that. So
here we go, Charlie. 3 pit exchanges right next to each other. Bears goes in, Sigep crashes into their bike, but for the most part, decently smooth there.
Yeah, that was a pretty good exchange set. 3 people exchanging together. Normally doesn't turn out well, so that was pretty safe. So good job on those teams.
You could see the sign of appreciation from Vincent Obermeyer for Bears. Went up and tapped the Sigep rider, said sorry about hitting your bike. But everybody gets out unscathed, and we are back with BKB in front. And just as I say that, they let Jet Black, Cutters, CSF coming through on the inside. Turn 4 looking a little bit dusty as well as they come around.
Yeah, I think that whole turn 3 to turn 4 stretch is also, we don't have as good of a visual on it, but I don't think it's great either. That's where Fiside crashed a couple times, Sigep crashed. I think we're up to 7 or 8 crashes total so far, which is...
After one of the cleanest women's races we've seen, there were 2 single bike crashes, one on turn 4 and one in the pit of Theta. That was it. But the men's race has been just a little bit different today.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the women benefited from the rainfall, which kind of kept it from being dry, but then them riding on it for 100 laps and exchanging on it for 100 laps, that just inevitably, no matter how much the track team comes out and rolls it, is going to make it dry and is going to make it loose. So it's just it's going to happen, and we're seeing it today.
It is Grey Goat out in front. Logan Tisdale riding the bike, the missing out champion, is leading the pack right now here at the 70th Men's Little 500. Austin Render with the 2017 champion, Charlie Hammon. Griffin Gonzalez, the big dog, is down roaming the pits today for us, doing a great job talking to the teams. I want to give a thank you to all the riders who have given their time talking to Griffin. I know it's a lot to get off the bike, you're breathing heavy, you're sweating, you're tired, and then Griffin sticks a microphone in your face, and everybody has been extremely gracious with their time talking to our man, Griffin Gonzalez. So I know Griffin would agree with us that we are very thankful for everybody's time. As Fiside burning ahead of the pack right now. Cutters in second, about a turn behind. And it does not look like Fiside is going for an exchange. Remember, as we head into lap 130, they didn't do it this early, but Fiside did go ahead of the pack in 2019, unable to hold off the pack, but they are capable of creating some separation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in 2019 they benefited a little bit for being more of a dark horse team, and when teams do something so. There was an amazing breakaway, and when teams do that, they get kind of put on the radar. So I think realistically today they might have a more difficult chance just because teams are going to be watching for it, but they definitely have the caliber of riders to do so.
Robert Strobel, the ITT champion, takes over second, and then he goes wide and lets a couple of guys come through. You can see that cat and mouse game. Nobody wants to lead the pack. So as soon as somebody takes the inside, they then drift to the outside and let somebody else take it. It feels like the pack is starting to speed up a little bit here, though. They were coming a little bit slow around the start-finish line, but maybe a little bit of speed as they can sense Fiside stretching out its lead a little bit. It looks like they are readying for an exchange in the Fiside pit. They have about, a third of a lap lead right now? As the rest cross the finish line, it's an 11.5-second gap for Phi-Sci in first place, with Gray Goat following behind. Now that's Jet Black, excuse me, the gray and white blending in together. Jet Black is in second. And Phi-Sci did go for its exchange, and they are still out ahead here around turn 4. On the bike, it is Andrew Lavalle again out there. He has been eating laps for Phi-Sci today, Charlie. And at what point do you take your sprinter off the bike to get him ready for the final laps?
Yeah, you really want to see around that lap 160 to 70, trying to give as much your sprinter as much rest as possible, especially if you have a stronger team that can eat up some of those laps and leave your sprinter on the trainer. So you'll see sprinters, sometimes they'll enter the race, like they'll leave the race around 150 to 160, and they'll enter back in that 190 to 197 range, just kind of depending on what the sprinter wants to do and how the coach wants to play it. So I think they'll probably have, most sprinters will probably have one set, maybe two more before they're preparing for their last one.
It was his brother Albert Lavalle that was on the bike late for Phi-Sci in the 2019 race, unable to hold on to the lead. And Cutters, your back-to-back champion, trying to go for the three-peat today. They're about a straightaway behind Phi-Sci right now. It's Cutters, Jet Black, as well as Phi Delt, Bears, and BKB. Chi Alpha, Beta Sig in there as well. Phi-Sci working across the start-finish line into lap 134. Getting into the moment where teams will start to try and make those burnout opportunities. Whether they will work or not, Charlie, you've said you don't think they will work. But teams we're in that time frame where teams will try and maybe try that if they know they can't hold up in a sprint at the end.
Yeah, you know, it's always a strong effort, and I by no means want to say that to not do it, but at the end of the day, just from a statistics perspective, you know, looking at past races, those breakaways that go in the 100 to 150 range, you have to lap the field, and that's happened so few times. You know, coincidence that happened in the women's race this morning, but it doesn't happen very often. But at the end of the day, you're just not going to stay out by yourself for 65 laps. So you're either lapping the field or you're going backwards. So, but it is good for the race. So it's always great to see teams throw their cards out there, see what they can do, shake things up a little bit. It's more fun for the fans too, so I'm happy that they're doing it.
Phi-Sci still a straightaway ahead now of Jet Black. Foul, looks like by Sig Ep. Want to give a shout out as they cross the start-finish line. Theta Chi is racing with two guys today. And they're not on the lead lap, but they are giving it everything they have, and that cannot be easy. And they are working their way around turn 1 right now, about 10 or so laps behind the leaders. But with two riders, they are giving it their all today. Phi-Sci around turn 2 in the lead right now, and it looks like even adding to that lead.
I'm truly impressed by Phi-Sci's performance today. They've gone through 3 crashes, have been down significant portions of the race, and now they're going off the front. These guys are clearly crazy fit.
It's about a 14-second gap right now for Phi-Sci, who entered the final lap of 2019 with what, a 7-8 lead? Yeah. So we learned anything can happen in the Little 500 in 2019, but it's a big lead right now for Andrew Lavalle and Phi-Sci. Sig Ep is one of the teams that are trying to make a comeback, and Griffin Gonzalez checked in with their pit.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I just finished talking to Reese Ivory Gagne. He is the captain of this Sig Ep team. Looking forward to get the first podium win for a fraternity team back since 2016. Hasn't been done since. He told me he is sick and tired of seeing these independent teams run away with Little 500 victories. And as for how they're strategically handling this race, his goal is not to be first right now. He wants to be first at the end. They're just trying to manage that lead, stay to the front, and get ready for a big push in the final few laps. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Griffin. And yeah, the theme since 2016 has been independent teams owning the podium. The last time a Greek house was on the podium was 2016, Delta Tau Delta, with the coach of now an independent team, Jet Black, and Courtney Bishop. So with Phi-Sci leading by half a lap over BKB, they are in a good position to try and work their way into the podium this year.
Yeah, it looks like Robert Strobel from Blackie Bulls might be doing an exchange, but he definitely did kind of a +1 scenario where he thought he was going to go in for an exchange, and he kept going. I think it looks like they're ready for exchange on this lap. But
he crosses 18.5 seconds behind Lavalle, who comes around turn 4 with a and like you said earlier in the race when Fiji was pulling ahead, he can nearly see the back of the pack, which is what you're trying to catch. That's what DG tried to catch in the women's race, and then you can draft off the back of the pack. Easier said than done, but half the battle is now he gets to the straightaway and he can see the back of the pack.
I am truly impressed by Andrew Lavalle's work today. He is a workhorse. He is getting close to that 3/4 of a lap up, and like you said, if he starts seeing the back of this pack, which I think he might be when he comes out of turn 4, he does have a chance at lapping. So I might be eating my words from earlier.
He's definitely seeing them as they go around turn 1. He comes across the start-finish line. This is remarkable by Faisai. They are nearly a lap ahead. Here in lap 141, let's get you a reset as Faisai running away with first right now. Sigep is in that pack. I'm going to name all these teams, and by the time I name them, their positions will change in the pack. But the pack includes Sigep, Beta Sigma Psi, Black Key Bulls, and Fiji in the top 5. Jet Black, 3PH Cycling, Phi Delt, Cutters, and CSF in the top 10, with Bears, Chi Alpha, Acacia also in there, and 3PH Cycling as well. So this is a big pack, but Faisai can see it. They are a turn away from getting to the back of the pack. And that's a pack that they lead by 25 seconds or so, 30 seconds. This is a phenomenal race by Faisai so far. Still a long way to go. We saw it in 2019, but Fiji in second place right now, having a long way to go. They cross 29 seconds behind, and now the cross from Faisai. This is remarkable.
Yeah, you know, with that 2019 race, I think it's pretty reasonable to say if they didn't exchange on the last lap, they would have won that race. I bet that's been haunting Andrew and Faisai ever since.
They are going to go for an exchange here if they can get to the outside. They are trapped on the inside right now, and they will keep going. Lavalle will stay on the bike. I would venture to guess, Charlie, that they will not make an exchange on lap 200 this year if they are in that position. I know it was a tough spot. Everybody it could have gone either way, but I will bet they are ready to go here in this one for lap 200. This is phenomenal. They are working their way around, and I believe, have they lapped Cutters, or did Cutters catch them that quickly? I think they might have lapped Cutters. They did. Cutters is in 14th right now. A lap down. Wow.
Yeah, you see the front of the group, you know, the chase group, which Faisai is getting pretty close to. They are really starting to pin it. They're starting to work a lot harder. I think they're realizing how close Faisai is to them. And, you know, I'm looking at the Faisai pit. They are not bringing a bike out. They aren't bringing a rider out. They're not exchanging yet. I think Faisai and Andrew Lavalle is trying to lap the field before he comes out of this race.
Some notable teams he has lapped. Cutters, CSF, Bears, and Sigep are all a lap behind, and he's closing in on Fiji, who earlier in this race was a half a lap ahead. They're going to give it to Matt Cooper here, though, as Fiji to try and maybe get back into this. This is impressive from Lavalle. He had to slow around turn 4, but BKB in second is way behind. 32-second gap right now for Faisai.
So it looks like they brought a bike out onto the track to exchange, and he and Andrew waved it. And
they have it out again. We'll see if he goes this time.
Oh, he is very close
Lavalle
to this
is
pack.
in a groove, and he wants to take it. He's looking at his pit and not going. He is staying on the bike for Faisai.
So Faisai just connected with the pack. He has lapped the field.
This is remarkable from the team that had arguably the toughest finish to the 2019 race. And they have used that as fuel. They are lapping Grey Goat right now, and they're on the heels of the remaining 4 or 5 teams that are still in the lead lap. Unbelievable stuff right now from Faisai. 147 in the books, and Faisai is going around everybody right now. It's just Jet Black, Beta Sig, and Black Key Bulls on the lead lap. And he's about to pass them all. Andrew Lavalle. Oh, and a crash from Jet Black. And it takes out Faisai. Faisai is down. Fidel is down as well.
So Jet Black slid out. His bike went flying.
And down goes 3PH on his own, crossing the start-finish line.
You hate to see this for Faisai. He is hurt. He can hardly ride. His handlebars are twisted. He just made contact with the pack, and now he can't even ride his bike.
This is a huge turn of events. Faisai's lead is down to about half a lap.
Wow.
And now they have to get back in pit. Lavalle cannot ride very fast with his broken bike. Faisai had run a bike across the field. Now they're running it back to their pit to exchange. Jet Black is trying to make up time now.
So what you're seeing is Black Key Bulls is taking advantage of this chaos a little bit to try to unlap themselves right now. Black Key Bulls is making a huge charge to get back to Faisai. Faisai just exchanged in turn 4. BKB is in the center of the backstretch, and they're trying to shut this and unlap themselves immediately.
They might have it here in about 15 seconds or so. It's about a 20-second gap right now for Faisai. But if Black Key Bulls is on the lead lap, which I believe they are about to pass him. An exchange for Faisai, and a costly crash in turn 4 has turned this race upside down. Faisai was about to lap the entire field, and now they're about to lose the lead. But is this one of those situations, Charlie, where you see that happen, you take a deep breath and come back to the pack and maybe regroup over the next 20 laps or so, as BKB now has the lead?
Yeah, so Black Key Bulls just caught Faisai. Faisai and Black Key Bulls are about a straightaway or so on the pack. And to your point, yes, I think Faisai at this point just needs to regroup. You absolutely hate to see something like that happen. It has been a very unfortunate race for Faisai, but also 4 crashes. They lapped the field, and now they're unlapped. It's been truly insane.
Lavalle is up on his feet now. He is frustrated over in the Faisai pit. He was giving one of the best races we have seen on this track here. And then he gets caught in a wreck. Right now it's Black Key Bulls, Faisai, Grey Goat, Beta Sig, and Fiji in the top 5.
That was truly one of the most impressive single rider efforts I have seen in the Little 5.
And Grey Goat has taken the lead now. Logan Tisdale, the missing out champion, is in first. That just opened up the race. He had a 30-plus second lead, and it's gone.
I mean, all he had to do is Faisai, they had to do is just defend for the last 50 laps. When you lap the field, all you have to do is defend. That's all he needed to do. And then, unfortunately, the Jet Black crash took him out. His bike got mangled. He couldn't ride it. And now, just like that, they're right back in the pack. I mean, it's good that they're still in the pack, but wow.
All right, Griffin is down in the Faisai pit. He has an update for us on what happened with Lavalle.
Hey guys, obviously tensions are always running high here at the track, especially when you're in the closing quarter of this race, and that's exactly what's happened right there with Lavalle. Obviously tensions running very high between him and another team. Doesn't think the crash was really justified, and obviously when it's your 4th crash on a day for one team, tensions are going to run extremely high. Faisai still in the run though, however, and should be fun to see how they finish here.
Thanks, Griffin. Yeah, Jet Black spinning out in turn 3, and then their wheel got caught with Faisai's wheel, and things have changed abruptly here. Our leaders are coming around turn 4. It's Beta Sig in the lead right now, with Grey Goat coming on the inside. Black Key Bulls, Faisai, CSF, and 3PH, but those two that I last mentioned, I believe, are a lap behind. They are. There are, it looks like, about 10 to 12 teams on the lead lap right now. It's hard to know after that big crash. Getting an update here. About 10 teams on the lead lap. Jet Black is trying to make up some ground as well. They are the 11th team, actually, on the lead lap.
Yeah, so Jet Black is about a little over a straightaway behind on the field. Black Key Bulls is leading it. Faisai is still in the pack, like I keep saying, unfortunate circumstance, but at least they're still there.
So it does appear that there are 11 teams on the lead lap. It stretches from Black Key Bulls back to Jet Black and Fidel, who are coming, as you said, about a straightaway behind.
Yeah, it looks like Jet Black is going a little bit backwards right now. They were about a straightaway. It's not quite a half lap, somewhere in between.
Well, they have Krahulick on the bike. Can he make up this ground right now for Jet Black? That is the question as Phi-Psi retakes the lead. They are still in this race. The question is, can Lavalle continue to ride? Is he okay to keep riding? That's going to be the big question coming out of the Phi-Psi pit right now.
Yeah, I think physically, just like from the crash, he's probably okay. But, he just burned a lot of matches.
He just yelled at Jet Black's Rob Krahulick as he came around the turn. I don't think they're best of friends right now. He is very frustrated over in the turn 3 pit for Phi-Psi right now.
Yeah, I can't say I blame the guy. Obviously, tensions are high. He's upset. It was an accident, so at the end of the day, we got to move forward, but I can understand why he would be very upset right now.
Like you said, Jet Black losing some ground. They are further than a straightaway behind. It's Grey Goat who's coming in for an exchange. They will take Logan Tisdale off the bike, and they will switch him out with Jack Dunsford, another very experienced rider for Grey Goat, who has a couple of very experienced guys on their team.
Looks like Black Key Bulls is also doing an exchange. Logan Brown had a great set there. He was very aware of the chaos that was happening and quickly unlapped himself. So good set by Logan Brown there.
And they lose the lead. It's Phi-Psi who has it right now. It looks like Fiji has caught up and is in second place. We should not be surprised by Fiji because Fiji has one of the most impressive stats I've ever seen in Little 5. They have top 10 in 77% of their races. 51 of 66, they have been a top 10 team. They are a force to be reckoned with. They are just a phenomenal team. They have won 6 times, but they have not won since '95. So something to watch as Fiji sticks in this race. They have Matt Cooper, one of the best riders in this race. Cutters has taken the lead. Sigap is behind. This has been so impressive. The teams that have been caught up in wrecks. Phi-Psi in 3 wrecks today. Sigap has been in multiple. Bears has been in a couple, and yet they're all still here as Sigap will wave off an exchange. Meanwhile, John Nicholson on the bike for Cutters. Good set there from Torin to get Cutters right back in this.
Yeah, so Cutters are a little bit off the pack for the exchange, but they'll catch back up.
Sigap is leading the way, I believe, in a burnout attempt here.
I think it's exactly as we expected. The factor of little experience and a pretty poor track conditions is just for, come into several crashes. Unfortunately, some teams multiple. I'm curious to see what happens over the next 40 laps because it's not shaping up to be a very safe sprint scenario.
Sigap is putting Reese Ivory Gagne, their best rider, on the bike here as they try and keep themselves in this race. They are out in front with CSF, who just passed them around turn 2.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about Sigap enough. They've had a really, really great race today. Really all-around outstanding riding from Sigap today.
The pack is really starting to spread out a little bit. Fiji is leading the pack. CSF just made an exchange, so they drop back into the pack, and it's Sigap who has separated itself for the moment out in front.
Yeah, Sigap was the 2015 champion, so they've been on the podium recently. They know what they're doing. They have a great coaching system, just all-around great tradition at Sigap Cycling. So it's awesome to see them having a good race today.
Well, the Greek houses have had a great start to this race. Phi-Psi, Fiji, Sigap, and for more on Fiji, we go down to the pit. And Griffin Gonzalez.
Thanks, Austin. And one of the coolest stories about Fiji actually lies in the hands of their captain, Matthew Cooper. Now, Cooper, a Carmel, Indiana native, in his junior year of high school, got picked up from school from his parents and was told that he actually was diagnosed with leukemia. Cooper was actually a cross-country runner at the time at Carmel, a very strong program over there. And he was determined to keep running, keep working, keep going, never quitting on his athletic goals, and he did not stop. In fact, he was sitting next to his hospital bed. He had a little bike trainer thing that he would use when he could get the strength up to do it. Now, fast forward to last year. He was named the captain of Fiji, clear of cancer, and now you see him today riding a majority of his team's laps as he's riding and keeping Fiji at the front of the 70th running of the Little 500. What a story and what a comeback for this last year of rider, Matthew Cooper from Fiji.
Just a truly inspirational story, Griff. Thanks so much for relaying that to us. Matt Cooper's on the bike and in second place right now for Fiji. Everybody chasing Faisai again. But after that crash and what you pointed out, Charlie, the messed up handlebars, would imagine Faisai is down to one bike now.
Yeah, I don't see their mechanic working too hard in the pit, so maybe he was able to just readjust the handlebars. But it is just a problem all around when bikes get banged on the ground. These little 500 bikes are not any sort of very nice bike at all. They're not carbon fiber or anything. They're like $200 Schwinn bicycles, which is part of the awesome thing about Little 500 is keeping that tradition. But if they get banged up too much, they just don't perform as well. So hopefully Faisai's mechanic was able to get that fixed up, and they'll still have that bike throughout the race.
Austin Goodwin leading the pack now for BKB. It is really an accordion here in the last 10 or so laps. It's stretching and thinning and stretching and thinning. And right now it's starting to pack back up there on the straightaway on the far side. We are inside the final 40 laps of this race. Fiji started hot. They're in the mix right now. Then it was Faisai who took a big lead. They got involved in a crash. And now it's Sigep and a big pack behind him as we head down the stretch here, the 70th running of the men's Little 500. Austin Renner with a former Black Key Bulls rider and Little 5 champion Charlie Hammon to my left. Griffin Gonzalez is manning the pits for us and doing a fantastic job today. Shout out to our crew as well, our directors and our camera people. Everybody behind the scenes is absolutely killing it right now for us. Just as long of a day, if not longer, for them than it is for us, and we really appreciate all the hard work that they are putting into this excellent telecast of the Little 500. Kai Alpha has taken the lead now. And just as I say that, Black Key Bulls burning around the corner.
Yeah, we're in that 35-ish laps to go time frame. This is where you're going to see attacks happen, and this is where you're going to see attacks actually stay away. Teams can get off the front and be off the front alone for 25, 30 laps is pretty reasonable. So start to look for some of the fireworks to happen in this last 25 to 35 laps.
Black Key Bulls is making an exchange and they fall. The bike is down and Black Key Bulls, not a clean exchange.
You hate to see that. It looks like Robert Strobel's getting on the bike. They've about a half straightaway down. I think he'll be okay to cover that, but it looked like he just slipped on the cinders. I think just all around this track is so loose that it's affecting exchanges as well.
We wondered how it would ride after a race earlier today without the day in between, and it has gotten a little bit rough here in the men's race. Something we did not mention, Jet Black is right in the middle of the pack. They have worked their way back, and one of the top teams in this race, starting on the pole position, is back in the pack right now, and he's heading out the outside. Cutters has the lead right now in a bunched-up pack that Robert Strobel has now caught up to for Black Key Bulls. This is going to be a thrilling finish. Will somebody pull away in the final 30, or will we have a sprint to the finish? Cutters coming in for an exchange. John Nicholson off the bike, Alex Smith on the bike.
That ended up being an okay exchange just because the pack was longer, but he didn't really get much of a gap. So now that Cutters rider is going to have to do some work to get back on. Those are the times in the last 30 laps of the race that your team can really get hurt. Because if you have to chase back on when your legs are tired, that's when mistakes start to happen, and that's when you start to get dropped. So you really want to start really looking at the exchanges with 30 laps to go.
Sigep and Faisai will each be making an exchange, and Faisai does have a second bike ready to go. Here comes Sigep and Grey Goat here on the near side. They will turn to Jacob Richards for Grey Goat, and for Sigep they will go to William Pitts. Meanwhile, Faisai still up ahead. They will be looking for a turn or an exchange in turn 3. So Faisai leading the way in the second straight race, but can they hold on this time? That's the question as we all watch the final 30 laps unfold here at Bill Armstrong Stadium.
Looks like Kai Alpha is going to ready for exchange as well. They're getting a really good gap. This is what you want to see this late in the race, is this big gap, plenty of space for the next rider to get on. Good job.
Chase Madsen directing traffic with Acacia. He's in, and now he will tap in Jaden Dover. Again, Kai Alpha is racing with 3 riders and they are in the front of this pack right now. An impressive performance from Chi Alpha today. Black Key Bowls has taken over first place now. Robert Strobel, is he at this point in the race, Charlie, trying to create a gap?
I think he is. I think that's exactly what he's doing right now. BKB does not have a new rider in the pit as of yet, so this might be a big move from Robert Strobel.
He would be the guy you would expect to finish the race for Black Key Bowls, correct?
Yeah, you would think that, but he's just an all-around really solid rider, so he can do both. He can make the chaos and he can finish the chaos, so he's definitely reliable in this way as well.
It's about a 3-second differential right now between Black Key Bowls and the rest of the field.
Yeah, Robert is not letting up. This is definitely a move. Curious to see how the rest of the pack responds to it. It looks like they're starting to realize that BKB's off the front. And as I say that, it looks like Black Key Bowls is putting a rider in the pit to exchange. It looks like Gavin Goody, so they will exchange on this lap.
Well, let's see what Grey Goat is thinking. They're one of the teams chasing Black Key Bowls, and Griffin Gonzalez is in their pit.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Here with Charlie Conant, coach for this Grey Goat team. And Grey Goat, you guys found a way to get back in there. You have some of the most experienced riders in this race. How are you guys able to get the job done today?
You know, we just got to train hard all fall, all spring, and make it to race day. I mean, we just got to, prepare for the worst. Every day the race day is going to have its days, or its factors that you got to take into consideration. And so I think, we got to plan for everything.
When you have two riders like Tisdale and Dunstey, I mean, that just has to make your job as a coach 10 times easier because they have so much experience. They're really able to help these younger riders out, right?
Exactly, yeah. They have the base to be able to keep up with the big guys, and when a person on the front like Cutters, Faisai, or Jet Black make like an attack, they can really fill that gap and get us where we need to be.
Now, for those at home who might be watching, who might not really understand the strategy that goes into Little 5 and how much strategy really does, walk me through these final 30 laps we're getting to here.
Yeah.
How do you guys go about pacing yourselves? When do you put in your sprinter? And how do you go about finding a way to cross that finish line before anyone else does?
Well, I can't say too much, but I know that most teams, they want to save their sprinters so they're fresh for the last 30 laps. They put them at the lap 190 even sometimes, and then they just make sure that they're hot off the front so they can make a great sprint at the end, to get over the finish line. It really comes down to turn 3, turn 4 right over here, and you just got to make sure that your line is smooth so that you follow through and hopefully get a win. Yeah.
You think your guys got enough gas to get done?
We certainly hope so. Yeah.
Sounds good. Grey Goat trying to follow a recipe to a win today here at the 70th running of the Little 500.
Thanks, Griff. They're not willing to spill their secrets quite yet, but we'll see if Grey Goat has what it takes. They were second in 2017 and 2018, fourth in 2019. They're the third longest running independent team. This is their 13th race for Grey Goat.
It's awesome to see independent teams like Grey Goat stick around. It's not easy to be an independent team when you don't have that financial backing of a Greek system. So it's awesome to see Grey Goat been in the race and a contender for so long.
And it looks like they might be burning out here. Jacob Richards is heading into the front of the pack. It was Beta Sigma Psi in front, but now it's Grey Goat, and they will be getting ready for an exchange here. Their two most experienced riders still on the sideline, and this will be Jack Fahey, the junior who was 39th in ITTs, getting on the bike for Grey Goat, and Richards is giving him a huge lead right now.
Yeah, this might be a little bit of a move as well. I'm curious to see if they keep this going or if the rider getting on is going to sit right back into the pack. So we'll see. Exchanging now.
Exchanging, and a smooth one for Fahey. No secrets given to us by the Grey Goat staff, but it was a good conversation, good insight into what they are thinking coming down the stretch. It's Grey Goat in front. There's Phi Delt followed by Cutters, Phi Psi, and Beta Sig. We have 25 laps to go here at the 70th running of the men's Little 500. Charlie, I think we've gotten everything we could ask for here today. This has been thrilling as Black Key Bowls now takes the lead.
It has absolutely been thrilling. A lot of crashes that have really changed the course of the race, but overall just really good racing from all of these riders.
And coming across the start-finish line in first for Black Key Bowls, Gavin Goody, followed by Jet Black and Braden Clements. Cutters, Phi Psi, Phi Delt, Fiji, Beta Sig, Sig Ep, all involved in the latter stages of this one. This should be a thrilling finish as Black Key Bowls leads the way, looking for their first title since 2017 when the man to my left was a part of the Black Key Bowls team. A lot of good riders, a very deep team, And they were one of the favorites, even though they had to start last. You forget about that now. We're 176 laps in as Cutters now takes the lead. Now burning out here, Matt Cooper going around the edge for Fiji.
Yeah, they're doing really well. Looks like Blackie Bulls at the front of the race, Grey Goat, Cutters, all of the teams that you would expect to be there.
Around turn 4 now, Matt Cooper will go for the exchange. Decently smooth, not the best exchange in the world, but James Hastings is on the bike now.
Yeah, looks like Cutters at the front of the race, Fidel, Black Key Bulls, Phi-Sci still up there. Looks like we got 22 laps to go, so it's really shaping up to be an exciting finish. I'm curious to see if any of those top teams make a big move.
Right now it's Fidel leading the way for this 70th running of the men's Little 500. Phi-Sci is coming on the inside as well as Black Key Bulls. Phi-Sci has been the most resilient team in this race. They have been involved in 3 different crashes throughout the race. One that cost them
Yeah, it looks like Black Key Bulls are at the front of the race. Kai Alpha is off the front a little bit, continuing to jockey kind of in position with this lap, 20 laps to go. They might, like I said earlier, I'm curious to see if there's a big attack. I think there would be, just with the caliber of the teams and the depth of the teams this year. I think that somebody would inevitably make a big move, but haven't seen it yet.
Well, apologize for the technical difficulties. We are back, and nearly a crash there for Gavin Goody of Black Key Bulls, swerving out of the way of Fidel as they turn around turn 1. Cutters out in front with Fidel trying to make a move on the outside, and they do. Phi-Sci looked like they were ready for an exchange, but they are changing. And changing their minds, I should say. Now Fidel will be coming in, but so is Acacia, so trying to communicate here. And it looks like Fidel will be making an exchange. Off the bike is Andrew Murray. On the bike is Jimmy Kulik. They are out in front with 20 laps to go. Sigep, Bears, BKB, Beta Sig, Jet Black, Chi Alpha, as well as Grey Goat, Phi-Sci, Cutters, all involved in this lap. A lot of teams on the lead lap here coming down the stretch. It's going to be hard to predict what's going to happen here. Grey Goat is coming in for a burnout and an exchange. They'll put one of their experienced riders on here. This will be Jack Dunsford. Fiji makes an exchange, and they will put John Gudeman on the bike. They're in the lead, followed by Grey Goat. Solid lead right now for Fiji.
Yeah, kudos to Fiji for making another big attack. These guys have clearly been training this year. If you have the fitness to do 2 of these in a race, that takes a lot of training. So good job on them. We'll see if this stays away. It looks like the pack is starting to respond to it now. Black Key Bulls and Gavin Goody on the front of the pack starting to push it a little bit.
That's a fast-moving pack right now.
That is a fast-moving pack.
BKB coming around turn 4. Grey Goat crosses in second. It's Fiji with about a turn or 2 of a lead into the final 18 laps. Can they hold on and win their 7th title and their first since 1995? The team that has the best top 10 percentage, 77% of the time, Fiji finds themselves in the top 10. Right now they find themselves in first.
It's really going to be really interesting. This is where the cat and mouse game of the pack chasing really comes into play, because if you're the team that's really driving the pack to catch Fiji, you're pulling all of those riders behind you. So it's really that game of cat and mouse of who's going to do the work. Are they going to work together, or is somebody going to kind of sit back, let everybody else do it, and then surprise you when the race comes back together, because they have they don't have the tired legs and they can make the big moves after it comes back together.
Grey Goat made an exchange, and they put Jacob Richards back on the bike. Peyton Gaskill is on the bike for Cutters. They have a lot of ground to make up right now, with Fiji coming around turn 4 with an exchange themselves. They will turn it over to Nick Olson, the senior, trying to guide it home.
Okay, so now you're seeing the pack sees Fiji. Looks like Black Key Bowl still in the front, pulling Jet Black to catch Fiji. I think
Sigma Phi Epsilon making an exchange as well. They are putting Drew Gavitt on the on the bike for Sig Ep. Chi Alpha will be making an exchange as well. When do the sprinters start to come on the bikes here? And a crash in the Black Key Bowls pit.
Looks like Logan Brown, again, another exchange that got botched, and he is off the pack now. He's back on the bike. He's working his way back up, but that was not what you want to see this late in the race.
He's half a lap behind. How soon do you start to go to your sprinters to make up this deficit to Fiji?
Yeah, I think that ultimately you have to put the sprinters in. You got to put your top riders in, whether they're your sprinter or not, to make sure that this doesn't stay away.
Jet Black exchanging. Beta Sig is also exchanging, but both making up a little bit of time here. So is Phi Psi. They will exchange on the far side. Chi Alpha is burning out, trying to catch up to Fiji. Fiji's pit is excited right now. They have a solid lead.
Yeah, 13 laps to go. There's definitely an opportunity that this stays away. But I think more importantly, if it does come back together, it's going to be in those very late laps in the race, that 1, 2, 3 to go. It could be a very similar situation to the 2019 race with Phi Psi, when the pack caught them right at the end, and Cutters was able to kind of ride Xavier Martinez from Black Key Bowls wheel out and go around him. So there might be a similar situation today, and that's really when that cat and mouse game is really important.
Grey Goat is making a lot of exchanges here after 3 or 4 lap sets. They're going to go to Logan Tisdale here.
Looks like Black Key Bowls is back with Cutters, about to catch Phi Psi's wheel. So they're, basically back on the pack. So really good on Logan Brown's part to shut that down quickly. That's why you want those really fit riders that aren't necessarily your top rider, so that he can do this work and Robert Strobel can still take them to a potential sprint victory.
It's a 7-second gap right now for Fiji, very similar to what Phi Psi had in 2019. Jet Black leads the challenging pack. Phi Psi going for an exchange on the far side. Can somebody catch Fiji coming down the stretch? Across the line, Nick Olson has a large lead with 12 laps to go in the little 500.
Yeah, you're seeing that chase group. This is where, like I keep saying, the cat and mouse, they're not going that fast right now because nobody wants to pull through. Looks like Phi Psi might be coming to the front to do some work, but
they're 12 seconds behind right now is the pack, and Fiji looks like going for an exchange. Matt Cooper, their best rider, ready to get on the bike. Is there a chance, Charlie, he finishes it out the final 10 laps?
I think there is a chance. I think it's going to be really difficult just based on the fatigue and his legs and the prior breakaway. But, I mean, that would be the ideal scenario if he can, because those exchanges are really when things start to come back together. As you're seeing now, the pack is coming out of turn 4, and Fiji is going into turn 1.
Cutters is making an exchange as well, as the lead a little bit less. 9 seconds now for Fiji. Torin is getting ready, but he waves off an exchange for one more lap for Peyton Gaskill. Torin Cray Maher, second in ITTs, ready to get on the bike for Cutters. Fiji's lead is shrinking just a little bit. Cutters is burning. Grey Goat is burning.
Jet Black is burning as well. It looks like they've got a rider in their pit.
Can they catch Fiji? The return back now as Matthew Cooper's lead is shrinking. 10 laps to go for Matthew Cooper and Fiji.
Looks like Grey Goat's in the front now. They're going to really push this forward. There's a crash in turn 1. This guy needs to get out of the way.
That's Army Cycling nearly getting in the way. Torin is on the bike for Cutters. Fidelt is ready, but his teammate waved him off for the exchange. They're within a straightaway. They can see Fiji down the stretch. It's Grey Goat, BKB, Jet Black, Fidelt, and Phi Psi. Chi Alpha and Sig Ep in there as well.
This is where the team's trying to catch. They want to stay on the bike. They want to make sure that they don't exchange before Fiji does, because if they can do that, they can catch them and ideally get a gap and just be right back together. It looks like Grey Goat, Jet Black, Black Key Bowls all.
They're almost there, Charlie. They've nearly caught him. Fidelt exchanges. And there's a crash in turn 2. It's BKB involved again. They're down in turn 2. And the Blackie Bulls' chances vanishing right now.
You hate to see that. It looks like he just crossed over wheels with the rider in front of him. And
I think
went
that's
down.
Strobel hopping on the bike, but he has a lot of work to do in the final 8 laps. Fiji's lead is almost gone. Logan Tisdale is on his wheels. Chase Madsen of Chi Alpha is there as well.
That's a big storyline here. Looks like Blackie Bulls is a little less than a half lap down, but that might be the race.
Grey Goat has taken the lead from Fiji. It's Logan Tisdale, Matt Cooper, Chase Madsen leading the way. Faisai will go for an exchange in turn 3. Sigep is trying to catch up as well around turn 3.
So this is interesting. Robert Strobel, he might catch back on. There's only, 7 laps to go. He does have a chance. He is making up a lot of ground right now.
7 laps left as Chi Alpha takes the lead with 7 to go. Chase Madsen, who was 11th in ITTs, leading the way for Chi Alpha. Grey Goat in 3rd. Fiji in 2nd, Sigep and Jet Black are in there as well. Faisai and Cutters catching up as well with Fidel there. Bears looming behind.
So it looks like we got the big guns on the bike. Looks like Rob Krahulick is on for Jet Black. I think we have, it looks like Grey Goat might do one more exchange, or is Logan Tisdale already on the bike?
He is on the bike right now. Fidel is going to make an exchange to put Andrew Murray on the bike, their number 1 rider. Here we go. Grey Goat has the lead with 6 to go. Chase Madsen of Chi Alpha, remember they are racing without their best racer who broke his collarbone a few weeks ago. They're down to 3 riders, and they have the lead with 6 to go.
Looks like Blackie Bulls is a little less than a straightaway down. They might have an opportunity to get back in if there's a bunch of cat and mouse at the front and they slow down significantly.
Really impressive stuff from Strobel. He's within a straightaway right now, and the pack is very much slowing down. Chase Madsen is in front, and it's slow. Krahulick is Strobel's almost there. Beta Sig is coming around the outside now, and they will take the lead.
Yep, so Blackie Bulls is about to make contact with the pack. Huge set from Robert Strobel to get them back on. We'll see if he still has the legs to finish it up for them.
5 to go. Beta Sigma Psi is burning out around turn 3. Looks like they are going for an exchange. Phi Psi is also burning ahead. They are in front of the pack. Cutters is coming around the outside. Krahulick and Jet Black are in there. Sigep and Fidel and Fiji, Grey Goat, BKB, Chi Alpha, and Bears all involved as well. What a thrilling finish we have here at the 70th running of the men's Little 500.
This has truly been one of the most exciting races I've ever seen. This has been absolute fantastic racing all around. Like we said earlier, the crashes have really changed the course of this race. Pretty much every top team has gone down at some point during the race, some teams multiple times. So it's just been really interesting all around. A lot of adversity for all these guys to get back into the race.
Is there any chance they would race 300 for us? Because I don't really want this to end. This has been a fantastic race from start to finish. Cutters in front right now with Faisai coming around the outside. 4 to go. Faisai takes the lead. Jet Black in 2nd. It's Cutters battling on the inside for 3rd. Here's Faisai around turn 4. And there's a crash! Big crash! 3 racers survive it! Chi Alpha's around as well. But Bears, Fidel, Beta Sig, BKB, all involved. A huge crash. It wipes out Fiji as well.
So this is going to be the bike race. It's going to be Jet Black, Cutters, or Faisai.
Cutters, or Chi Alpha also looming, as well as Sigep. So they were the 5 that survived it.
So we got yellow flag racing.
Yellow. Wow, yellow flag with 2 to go.
Looks like Blackie Bulls has 2 riders on the track right now. They need to get that 2nd rider out of there. I don't think he realized he got back on the bike.
Yeah, they have a 2nd rider on there. Strobel's back up, but they also have Austin Goodwin. And they're back in green. Here we go. Final lap. Or 2 laps to go, excuse me.
If Faisai can finish this off after the race that they've had, it would be truly the most unbelievable racing from a team I've ever seen. So we'll see what this comes down to.
It is a 5-team race. Jet Black, Cutters, Faisai, Sigep, and Chi Alpha. Cutters takes the lead. It's Torin out in front. Krahulick is on his wheel with Faisai and Sigep, Chi Alpha looming. 5-team race as we head into the final lap. Faisai, it's Lavalle trying to get out to the outside. Lavalle is inching into the conversation. Krahulick has the lead for Jet Black around turn 1.
Made it safe through turn 1. That's the first hurdle to get through. Looks like Jet Black might be running away from it.
Jet Black down the straightaway has the lead. It's Chi Alpha, Sigep, Cutters, Sigep, Chi Alpha, and Faisai running out of gas. Krahulick around turn 3. Can Jet Black and Courtney Bishop's Little 5 career on a win? Krahulick to the start-finish line. He is your winner. Courtney Bishop and Jet Black take it in the 2021 Little 500.
Wow, that was a truly incredible race. That was a fantastic sprint from Jet Black. You got to feel for Faisai, Jet Black being the one to take them out of the race and then end up winning. That's going to be a tough scrub of cinders later. But wow, good job on Jet Black. That was truly one of the most ridiculous races I've ever seen.
Griffin Gonzalez is in the pit of our champions with the coach, Courtney Bishop. Griffin, take it away.
Coach, 25 years, and you're going off on top. What's going through your mind?
These guys did everything I asked them to do. We ran it perfectly. We had a lot of adversity. We were down. We were a half lap down. We wrecked. But they focused. They dialed in. They listened. It was beautiful. And I want to thank everybody in Indiana University for the experience. So
it was so close there on that final lap. How were you guys able to pull away there at the end?
We just told them to hang in. And believe that we could pull it off. We could get back. We thought we were a lap down there for a second. We fought, we hung on, and told them to be in the right spot. Fundamentals at the end, we got it done.
Coach, congratulations. You're going up on top. Let's go find Rob Krahulick. Rob, you've done it. You are a Little 500 champion after 2 years of waiting. How does it feel?
Feels fucking incredible. Hold on. Feels incredible. No profanity on the stream. I don't know what camera I'm looking at, by the way. Oh, what's up? Wow. That was an unexpected ending. We crashed about 30 to go. Had to get on some, I don't know, by luck, we knew. I just had to get on. Worked, B went down. Everyone on this team contributed to get back. I got to see how that finish went, but I just saw yellow flag. Knew I just had to be in 3. There's a lot of sand on the track today, and yeah, it's just impossible. Guys were going down all day. Everyone was going down. Man, I haven't really processed this yet.
As you try to process it, I got to ask, who out there who maybe could not be here at this race today, who do you really want to thank for everything they've done?
I got a lot of people. I want to start with my SAE family, Jim Fissinger, Dave Barrick, Andy Joe Krahulick, Dan Burns. Everyone who was really a part of that team, they really taught me how to lead and how to get over. And then, of course, the man here, Courtney Bishop, the man with the plan.
Well, Rob, you go celebrate with your teammates. Congratulations on being a Little 500 champion. I'm about to get tackled over here, guys. What a race.
Griffin, stay safe over there. Do your best. I know Grace had some fun with that as well in the women's race. That was something we should focus on. Jet Black was way behind after that crash they were in, and they fought all the way back, get the win in Courtney Bishop's 25th and final race. The Krahulicks added title to their family legacy. Just a storybook finish and just a fantastic race. Final result, Jet Black first, Cutters second, Sigep was third, Chi Alpha was fourth, and Faisai finished fifth. Black Key Bulls sixth, Grey Goats seventh, and Beta Sig eighth, Fidel ninth, and Fiji did get their top 10. They got 10th, but man, that was a brutal wreck there in lap 197 that really took a couple of teams out.
Yeah, that was kind of the nail in the coffin for all of those contenders that didn't really have a shot after that happening. Huge congratulations to Courtney Bishop and Rob Krahulick and the whole Jet Black team. That was truly an awesome race from them. And they dealt with the adversity of crashing as well. I think every top team did. So really awesome sprint from Rob Krahulick. You hate to see teams crash that late in the race and, just kind of have to lose by default of crashing. It's never fun to see in bike racing, but, that's part of it. So truly just awesome race all around, though.
It really was. From start to finish, Fiji pressed the gas pedal down early. Phi-Psi had an incredible race, and they just got caught up in so many crashes. But Matt Cooper, coming out in his third race, gave it everything he had. He was in position to win for Fiji before the crash. Cutters was there with an all-rookie team getting second. You mentioned Sig Epp throughout the race running such a solid race, kind of running behind the scenes, getting third. And Chi Alpha with 3 racers getting fourth. Just a remarkable race from start to finish. And the final lap going to Rob Krahulick and Jet Black. You can't script a better finish for Courtney Bishop in his little 500 career. He won in 2016. And actually, Sig Epp, with their third place finish, will be the first Greek team on the podium since 2016 when Delta Tau Delta and Courtney Bishop won. But he finishes his career off, his 25-year career, with a win. What a phenomenal finish to his incredible little 500 career. He's given so much to this race, and it's only fair the race gives one more back to him.
Absolutely. You love to see that storybook ending for Courtney Bishop. So just all around great race. Like you said, Sig Epp, wow. I think they were kind of a dark horse going in. They have a great program, but truly awesome to see them back on the podium.
They're ready whenever.
They won in 2015 and now back on the podium.
Huge congratulations to Courtney Bishop, Rob Krahulick, as well as Braden Clements, Josh Herbst, and Trent Hohenstreider. Here's our recap, a race filled with so many crashes. It was a tough race condition out there, and that final crash took so many teams out of the running, but what it did do was create a sprint to the finish that Rob Krahulick won for Jet Black. Charlie, it's been an absolute blast today. It's been a ton of fun. The 2017 champion to my left, Griffin Gonzalez down in the pits, and for everybody who gave so much time today behind the camera, behind the scenes, to make this broadcast work. We truly appreciate all of your efforts, and it does not go unnoticed for us up here. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Hopefully in 2022, you can be here in person and experience the events again. But we'll say so long here from Bill Armstrong Stadium. For Griffin Gonzalez and Charlie Hammon, I'm Austin Render. Enjoy the rest of your week.